storm rages on as Kukui attempts to steer his boat safely, but it's no use. They won't be able to make it to Ula'ula like this. As such, Kukui steers the boat in the other direction. Unfortunately, they're now within the storm and don't have too many options to safely get out. Nebby freaks out within Lily's bag. Lily tries to calm it down, but to everyone's surprise, it winds up teleporting the boat out of the storm and onto land. Everyone is shocked, since Nebby's never done anything like this before. But Lily explains that teleport is Nebby's only move, but it can only use the move sparingly, meaning that wherever they are, they're stuck for now. The kids wonder if Nebby just teleported them directly to Ula'ula Island, but the Rotom Dex quickly informs them that they're in fact not on Ula'ula Island, but rather on Poni Island. Ash is fine with this, stating that they can just do the island trials on Poni instead. But Kukui sadly informs them that Poni Island's totem Pokemon haven't been seen in ages, and no one knows why. Additionally, the island currently doesn't even have a kahuna, meaning no one is able to handle grand trials right now. This bums Ash out, since they're effectively stuck somewhere they can't do anything. Kukui notices the sadness on Ash's face, and recommends him to go explore a little of the island, to try to find some Pokemon he's never seen before. Perhaps once they get back, the storm on the waters will have cleared. Ash becomes excited once again at the idea of searching for Alolan Pokemon he's not seen yet, so he decides to go. He asks How if he'd like to join him, but he declines, preferring to stay behind and snack on some malasadas. Lily likewise would prefer to stay on the boat to rest after all that turbulence. Celine chooses to go with him though, also eager for some adventure, so the duo head off to a nearby foresty area. While out and about, Ash and Celine run into surprisingly few Pokemon, and it actually confuses them. They do notice a lot of Pokemon footprints in the ground, but they can't actually find any Pokemon. They wonder why that may be, but before they can really speculate, they notice an area of destroyed woodland. Damaged tree trunks are scattered everywhere, and it's clear that something powerful had to have caused this mayhem. The kids begin to look around for any signs of life, and Celine even sends out Meadow to search for Pokemon as they wander around. Eventually, Meadow comes across some undamaged flowers, and goes to taste the nectar. This causes her to change into her Sensu-style form. This impresses Celine, and she thinks Meadow looks so regal. Then, Pikachu picks up a strange sound. It sounds like a quiet whining, a Pokemon in pain. Meadow hears it too, and immediately the small mouse jumps off of Ash's shoulder and dashes off, and Meadow flies after him. Ash and Celine make chase, and as they do, they pass even more debris. They wonder just what on earth could have happened here. Pikachu eventually leads them to what appears to be a giant, turned-over tree log, surrounded by a cluster of leaves and rocks. Upon closer inspection, they can see a small Pokemon that neither can recognize. One thing is for sure, it's heavily injured. It's lying face down, with severe bruises all over its body, and it seems that it can barely move. Ash tries to approach the creature, but as soon as he gets close, it growls at him, weak, but still aggressive. Rotom Dex scans the strange little beast and identifies it as a Pokemon called Shagmallow. Ash wonders if this Pokemon was injured by whatever caused the destruction. It seems like the most likely scenario. Celine meanwhile ponders if this was once again the work of Team Skull. After all, they messed with the Passimian of Akala Island. Surely they could do the same thing here? But Ash doubts it. Not only does this location not even seem to be a trial site, but even if it was, Kukui said Poni Island's trials are basically non-existent for the time being. As such, Team Skull really has no reason to even be over here. There's no time to really think about it though. This Pokemon is clearly hurt and needs help. Ash tries to calm it down with words, and even Pikachu, Meadow, and Rotom Dex try to vouch for him. Still, Jangmo-o refuses to let them come near it. It may be small, but it's also feisty. And even if they could approach, they don't have any potions on them. Celine is concerned, but their options seem bleak. Ash feels that he has no choice. He rustles through his bag, looking for another heal ball to quickly heal the Pokemon through a temporary capture. But no such luck. Seems he only had the one he used on Lycanroc. With few other options, he pulls out an Ultra Ball. It should ensure capture for the weakened Pokemon. Sorry, this will only be for a little while, just until we can get you some help. Meanwhile, back on the boat, Lily is playing with Moon and Nebby, while Hal is enjoying a malasada. Kukui is still keeping his eye on the storm, and as they're relaxing, they hear a shuffle coming from the boat's interior room. Lily is fearful, but Moon encourages her to check it out. The girl quickly opens the door and is shocked to see a small figure dash out of the room and onto the deck. The stowaway is revealed to be a very familiar Cubone. Wait, isn't that Kiawe's Cubone? Crystal? Lily is a bit confused, as she wasn't too acquainted with Crystal before, due to having been battling Team Skull with Celine. Hal explains the situation, and as he does, the little Pokemon rushes over to his leg, cutely nuzzling her head against it. Hal is smitten by the adorable creature, but he's confused on what the Pokemon is doing there, how she even got on the boat with none of them noticing in the first place. One thing is clear though, Crystal clearly likes Hal. Kukui tells them that, if they want, they can contact Kiawe with the Rotom Dex once Ash and Celine come back, to let him know what's going on. But before they can even answer, the two trainers in question are rushing back. Ash informs Kukui about the injured Pokemon they found and had no choice but to capture. He tells them that they need to get somewhere to heal it as soon as possible. Thankfully, the storm finally looks to be dying down, so Kukui says that they can get back on the water. In fact, he thinks he knows exactly where they can go to get help. Wow, so Crystal followed you guys all the way there? Yes, I'm sorry we didn't notice. Would you like for us to send her back to you through a Pokemon Center? Well, Hal, it's clear to me that Crystal likes you. I noticed it even before you guys left. I'd say it's better for you to keep her as your Pokemon. Hal was in shock. He never would have expected for the Cubone to have become attached to him in such a short while. He looks down and asks the Pokemon if it's true, if she really wants to join his team, and she happily nods while nuzzling up to Hal. Thrilled, Hal pulls out one of the Pokeballs Lily gave him, a Dusk Ball. Lily and Celine are looking over the deck, watching as they approach their destination, and Lily expresses amazement over seeing Meadow's new form. As the boat closes in on the Smile Island, Lily becomes visibly nervous. Oh no, that's where we're going? Nebby and Moon can sense their trainer's nervousness, as can her friend. Celine asks if everything is okay, but the other girl brushes her off. She says that she's just feeling a bit seasick, and adds that she'll probably just rest inside after they stop. Celine asks if she'd like for her to stay with her, but Lily tells Celine that she'll be fine by herself. On the front deck, Ash meanwhile asks what that place is. Hal jumps in to explain that it's Aether Island, home of the Aether Foundation, a special organization dedicated to helping Pokemon. Kukui confirms this, and says that if anyone can give proper treatment to this Pokemon, it's them. The boat docks and the group are immediately greeted by some Aether Foundation employees. One woman walks to the front and identifies herself as Wick, the assistant branch chief. She asks if they need anything. Ash rushes off the boat and tells them that he found an injured Pokemon on Poni Island, which desperately needs help. He explains that it was acting very aggressive, and he had no choice but to capture it in a Pokeball to bring it in for treatment. The horrified employees lead Ash inside to their medical area. Wick tells the others not to worry though. Their medical treatments are the best in Alola, superior to every Pokemon Center. This Pokemon will be fine. She asks Hal and Celine if they'd like to have a tour of the facility while they wait, and they agree. Kukui meanwhile agrees to stay outside to monitor the weather and make sure they'll have a clean trip to Ula'ula once they finish up. As Hal gets off the boat, Crystal follows him, and Celine points out the little Cubone's presence. Hal explains the situation and what Kiawe had told him over the Rotom Dex call, revealing that Crystal is now his Pokemon. Celine congratulates Hal on the new addition to his team as they make their way inside. Miss Lucine, I've just been notified that we apparently have guests. Oh, do we? I'll go and see them then. Handle things for me here, Soliera. Certainly, ma'am. Wick shows Hal and Celine everything around the facility. She explains everything the Aether Foundation is known for, and tells them how they were founded to help care for and shelter Alola's Pokemon. The president established the organization after seeing how many Pokemon were injured by the likes of Team Skull, and wanted a location dedicated solely to helping them. Celine is in awe of the amazing place, and says that it's great to have such kind and caring people in the region who are trying to help Pokemon negatively affected by Team Skull. Hal also expresses happiness and comments that the Aether president is an inspiration for everyone. Why, thank you, a voice says. Hal and Celine turn to see a woman standing down the hall. The woman introduces herself as Lucine, the president of the Aether Foundation. Ash is in the medical room, and Jangmo is receiving treatment. It is hooked to a machine and being given numerous vitamins. It's also had several hyper potions used onto it. Shockingly, one of the employees notes that the treatment is complete. Ash is confused, as Jangmo is still motionless on the bed. But in that moment, the Pokemon gets up and looks around the room. Ash is beyond impressed to see how quickly the Jangmo-O has regained its strength. Ash lets the Pokemon know that he brought it in after seeing how hurt it was, and asks if it's okay. Jangmo-O gives a confused and somewhat surprised look, but the Pokemon happily nods. Rotomdex is surprised to see the Pokemon's change in demeanor after being healed. The Aether employees note that Jangmo-O must be in a better mood after hearing how Ash only wanted to help it. Ash then asks what happened to it, and the Pokemon then becomes angry, growling intensely as it explains what happened in its own language. Rotomdex translates that Jangmo-O, along with other wild Pokemon, were attacked by a giant powerful Pokemon, which destroyed the land. Hearing this makes Ash confused. A giant Pokemon? That sounds like a totem Pokemon. But Kukui said that Poni Island's totem Pokemon haven't been seen in ages. The Aether employee confirms this. But it's met with more frantic growls from Jangmo-O, who insists that what happened is the truth. Ash is still unsure, but at this time, he decides to apologize to Jangmo-O for capturing it in the first place. He said he only did it because he needed to get it some help. Jangmo-O then becomes shy, thanking Ash for the help. Ash then asks the next big question. What does Jangmo-O want to do now? Go back to Poni Island? But the Pokemon frantically shakes its head. It doesn't want to go back. Not with that aggressive Pokemon still out there. So Ash asks what it wants to do. It replies to Rotomdex, and the Pokédex translates that Jangmo-O would like to stay with Ash. This stuns the trainer, and he asks if it's sure, and the Pokemon confirms it with a tail wag. Ash happily pets his new capture, and Rotomdex scans the Pokemon so Ash can learn some more information about it. Rotomdex informs Ash that Jangmo-O is a dragon type, and that this one in particular is female, knows the moves Dragon Breath, Brick Break, and Dual Chop, and has the ability Bulletproof. Ash is impressed by this and is more than thrilled to have the new addition to his team. Meanwhile, Lily is still on the boat, hiding under the covers of the bed. Why? Why do we have to come here? Lily's Pokemon are surrounding her, concerned over her emotional state. Nebby, Sandy, Snowy, and Cleffy already know why their trainer is nervous, but Moon is unfamiliar with his trainer's history with the Aether Foundation. Still, it keeps quiet. And this silence allows them to hear a voice from outside, speaking to Kukui. Lily is too terrified to move, so her Pokemon huddle by one of the windows to get a look at things. Hello, is everything okay out here? Oh yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on the weather. Good to hear. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Fico, and our Aether Foundation employees informed me that you were out here. Lily's Pokemon shudder upon seeing the man in the familiar uniform. It's the same uniform as those Ultra Recon people Dulce and Zazie wore. So is he also a part of the group? Fico glances over at the window, and the Pokemon immediately hide out of view. Is there someone else on your boat? Oh, it's just my research assistant. She's just a bit seasick from the storm we had to sail through, so she's resting. Oh really? Anyone else? Just her Pokemon. Do you think they'd want some medical treatment? We could even give something to your assistant. This has Lily's Pokemon shivering. Moon shrieks with fear, but is quieted by Sandy and Cleffy. Nah, she's probably fine. Plus, I don't want to disturb her. Lily's Pokemon sigh with relief. Fico nods and waves Kukui off before heading to turn back inside, but he glares back at the boat one last time before he finally departs. Ash reunites with Hao and Celine after Jangmo-O is deemed healthy enough to leave. He meets Lucine, who introduces herself to the young boy. She says that she's happy to hear that the Pokemon was able to recover, and notes the amazing medical skills of her staff. Ash thanks her for allowing them to be able to get treatment on such a short notice, but Lucine says that this is what the Aether Paradise was made for. Curiously, Celine asks if there's anything else the organization does. After all, the island and the facility is huge. Surely there must be more that they do here. This question brings a smile to Lucine's face. She tells them that, actually, there is something special that she's been working on, and she would love to show them. Meanwhile, Dulce and Zazie are in the lab area typing up notes. Specifically, they're going over the data they gathered from the skirmish they secretly collected on Wele Volcano Park. Dulce notes how strong the trainer's Poipole is growing and wonders if she'll be able to awaken its true power. Zazie says that she doubts someone without a close enough connection to the Ultra Beast will be able to do such a thing. Before they can talk more, Fico enters the room. He asks how the research is going, and the two state that it's fine, but they wish that they had more footage on that Poipole. They'll have to get more soon. Fico asks if they've seen those trainers anytime recently, but they say that they haven't come in contact with them since seeing them on Willow Volcano Park. Vico suggests that they battle them again so they can get more battle data. Sassy says that she wants to battle next time, since Dose did the first time. At this, Soliera walks into the room, also asking about progress. They state that everything is fine, and Soliera mentions that she's glad to hear that. She hopes they'll continue to make good progress, but she'll have to get back to Lucine now, assuming their guests are gone. Guests? Sassy asks. Oh, you mean the man on the dock? Vico asks. Yes, but it seems he came with a few children as well. They needed a Pokemon to receive medical treatment. Are they still here? Dose asks. Let's just check the monitors, Zazie says. The quartet pull up all cameras and finally see Lucine along with a few unfamiliar kids. Wait, no, they know those kids. It's them, Dose says. Who? Vico asks. Wait, aren't those the kids you sent me footage of before? Soliera asks. Yes, those are the kids with the poi pole, Sassy says. But wait, the girl with the beast isn't with them, Dose adds. That doesn't matter. We must alert the president immediately. Lucine leads the trio up to the second floor in a space she calls the conservation area. She greets a spectacled man who introduces himself as Faba. Lucine expresses surprise in seeing him, asking where Soliera went. He explains that she was called down to one of the labs and requested that he take her place, which he was happy to do. Lucine doesn't think much of it, as she's more interested in showing off her special project. She lets the kids know that she's researching a special type of creature, which she calls Ultra Beasts. Celine asks if Ultra Beasts are Pokemon, but Lucine says that even she isn't sure yet. She's been studying these specimens for years, and feels she's getting closer in learning more about them. She's even added a special group of employees to her facility in order to get more data on them, and they've been successful so far. Right now, all she knows is that the creatures are rare and only appear through mysterious circumstances. Her mission has been to try to summon one herself. Ash thinks all of this sounds cool, and Hao asks how Lucine plans to find the Ultra Beasts if they rarely appear. Faba then asks permission to show off their special device, and Lucine allows it. Faba then pulls out an odd black box, which the children are naturally confused by. Lucine begins to explain that the device was created to summon Ultra Beasts by opening Ultra Wormholes. Celine asks what an Ultra Wormhole is, and Lucine says that it's a portal from their world to the Ultra Beast world, Ultra Space. In that moment, out of nowhere, the box begins to glow. Lucine asks what's going on, but Faba is just as confused as she is. The box continues to glow, and it shoots a beam into the sky. From the beam, a massive portal manifests in the air and above the group. Ash is stunned. This is the same thing he and Lily saw in the sky a while ago. Only this time, something emerges from the portal. A strange white creature with numerous tentacles descends in front of the group. Faba, Lucine, and all of the kids are stunned. Faba, is that? It is. It's UB-01. Symbiont. Red lights begin flashing. Something Lucine notes is an emergency lockdown notice for the facility, brought upon by this strange energy. All doors within the building are now locked. With this, the employees are now locked in their rooms, and no one from outside can enter. This is Ultra Beast. It's so beautiful in person. Lucine gushes. The kids are shocked as Lucine stares at the Pokemon with nothing but adoration in her eyes, the complete opposite of themselves. They're all frantically wondering what to do. Rotondex attempts to scan the strange thing, but he gets no data on it. He decides to simply take a photograph of it for future reference. No one is sure of what to do, until the creature aggressively charges at the group. Naturally, the kids send out their Pokemon in self-defense. Ash sends out Torracat, Celine sends out Aerial, and Hal sends out Dartrix. Ash orders Torracat to use his newest move, Flame Charge, which lands, but the attack does very little damage. And the Pokemon strikes back with what seems to be Power Gem, which of course does major damage to Torracat. So it can use Pokemon attacks? Celine questions out loud. That's amazing! Since it used a Rock-type move, maybe it's a Rock-type, Hao says. He then commands Dartrix to use Razor Leaf. The creature intercepts the attack with what looks like a Venoshock. This decimates Dartrix's attack to strike the bird for heavy damage. Now a Poison-type move? Ash ponders. Wonderful! Okay, enough is enough, Celine says. She orders a Bubble Beam from Aerial. The Brion lands her attack, and this time the mystery creature actually seems to take noticeable damage. Faba is typing up notes like crazy on his tablet, with Lucine being unable to take her eyes off the battle. Sadly for her, it seems like the bubble beam was enough to spook the creature as it returns back into the portal from whence it came. Lucine cries out in distress. "No! Don't go just yet!" But it's to no avail. The creature vanishes almost as quickly as it initially appeared. Everyone is stunned by what just happened. What on earth was that thing? Ash mentions to Lucine that the portal the creature came out of wasn't new to him. He's seen it before. Lucine grabs his shoulders and begins shaking him, asking him when, where, how he'd seen it. Ash only briefly explains that he'd seen one a while back on Malie. Celine is just about to mention Lily as well, but Lucine cuts her off, throwing endless questions at Ash. She says that portal was an ultra wormhole. She asks if Ash saw any ultra beasts when he saw the wormhole back then. But at this point, Faba cuts her off and tells her that their cameras were rolling this entire time. They should go back to watch the footage. Lucine tells him that he's right. She apologizes to the kids, but tells them that they must get back to their research. But she says that they can stay at Aether Paradise longer if they need to. But Hal tells her that it's fine. They should probably be leaving anyway. With that, the kids bid the woman farewell, with Lucine and Faba not even looking back at them as they leave. When the kids make it back to the entrance, Kukui, it seems, was frantically trying to get the door open. He says he saw and heard the alarm, but couldn't get inside due to the door locking. He asks what went on inside, but Celine tells him that they'll tell him on the way. After all, they should probably get moving before another storm arises. The professor agrees, especially once Rotondex mentions that he got pictures of everything. With that, everyone gets back on the boat, and they make their way to Ula'ula Island. Miss Lucine! Lucine is furiously typing on the computer as all 4 Ultra Recon Squad members rush into the room. "What do you want? Can't you see we're busy?" Faba rudely yells. "Those kids, where did they go?" Soliera yells. Lucine asks what on earth their problem is. The kids left because they were done with what they needed. Why is this so important? Dose explains that those kids were the ones they'd been following. They're the ones in possession of the Ultra Beast Poipole. Well, technically, it was the girl with the big white hat who has Poipole, but I didn't see her with the other 3. Usually all 4 of them travel together, Zasi specifies. At that, Lucine's face contorts into one of shock. "Did you say a girl with a big white hat?" she asks slowly. "A 4th person?" Fico adds. Zasi explains everything to the Aether members and even shows them screenshots from their tablet. Lucine is in utter shock, and she screams upon the realization of what just happened, how easily the object of her desire was pulled right from under her. "It must have been the kid's close proximity to an Ultra Beast, which caused our device to react and summon an Ultra Wormhole," Faba says. This is not over. The group of 5 are now smooth sailing onto the path of Ula'ula Island. By now, Ash, Celine, and Hao have explained everything to Kukui, who is shocked to hear of yet another of these portals opening up, and this one with a strange creature emerging from it. The whole thing is getting crazy. He mentions that he'll have to look more into this once he gets back to his lab. The boat docks on Ula'ula Island, and the gang head into Malie City. The kids are in awe of the beauty of the city, and Kukui recommends they check out the famous Malie Garden. Island challengers often hold battles in the area for fun. Ash agrees to do so, as he thinks it'll be great training for his Pokemon. Hao, on the other hand, wants to check out the Malasada shop, and Celine and Lily wish to do some shopping and hairstyling. With that, the kids split up for some free time and relaxation. Celine winds up changing up her clothes and hair again, and Lily loves her new look. Celine asks Lily if she'll buy anything for herself, but the girl shyly says no. She's never been good at buying clothes for herself, but they do decide to pick up some things for Ash and Hao as well. After leaving, they also head over to Malie Library to see if they can read up on any information of these strange happenings that they've experienced recently. Lily mentions that Kukui's wife, Professor Burnett, had once mentioned to her that Malie Library is full of books with lots of historical information on Alola. In particular, she mentioned a book called The Light of Alola. "Oh, that's this one right here." The girls turn around to see a short and mischievous-looking girl with long purple hair. Lily expresses shock at the girl having the exact book they need, but the girl explains that it was her father's. The girl introduces herself as Acerola and says that she knows lots of stories of Alola's history, and she'd be glad to tell them more about it. Celine and Lily let her know that they'd be honored to hear any information she has. Hal, meanwhile, enjoys his malasada snack with his Pokemon. Crystal seems to be getting along with his other Pokemon. Crabrawler in particular seems oddly fond of the small tyke, acting like a big brother figure to her. Dartrix and Raichu share their food with her, which makes the little Cubone happy. Vaporeon uses her tail to entertain the young creature, which Hal finds adorable. Crystal does appear perplexed by Komala, wondering why the Pokemon is always asleep, and if it's okay. Hal explains that Komala as a species just tends to sleep a lot, but that he is fierce in battle. Crystal seems fine with his answer, and Hal is happy that his new capture feels so welcomed. Ash, meanwhile, is having a blast in Malie Garden. He's already defeated quite a few trainers, and his Pokemon are showing off their growth. Jangmo-o has been on the side with Kukui, just watching, as Ash didn't want her to be put into battle so soon after she was harshly injured. In a battle against a Toucannon, Ash uses Lycanroc. As usual, she growls fiercely at her opponent at the start of the battle, and her eyes begin glowing red. Jangmo-o sees this and mimics the growling of the larger Pokemon. Lycanroc winds up defeating the large bird, but the battle was tough. Once the battle ends, Jangmo-o rushes over to Lycanroc and growls at the defeated opponent, then wags her tail at the large wolf. Lycanroc is puzzled by the tiny Pokemon, but she finds her adorable regardless. Ash, on the other hand, is hyped to see how excited Jangmo-o is for battle. After a while, the group reunites, where Kukui tells them that they can take a bus to their next trial site, Mount Hokulani, so they head over to the bus stop. And as they're making their way, Kukui is shocked by a particular figure who passes them by. It's an older man in all black, with a rather harsh expression on his face. "Kahuna Nanu, what are you doing here?" "Kahuna? Professor, what are you doing here?" "These kids are taking on the island challenge. We're heading over to their trial site on Mount Hokulani," Kukui says, gesturing to Ash and Hal. Nanu stares blankly at the group, unimpressed. He then looks directly at Hal. "You're Kahuna Hala's grandson, aren't you?" "Yep, I'm Hal." Nanu then looks over to Ash. "And you must be the kid Hala was talking about, the Kalos League winner in this universe." "Yeah, I'm Ash." Nanu stares at the two island challengers once more. "You two, battle." Ash and Hal are surprised by the random request, and Hal asks why he wants them to have a battle. Nanu says that he wants to see if they're really as strong as Hala proclaimed. Besides, if they win their Ula'ula trials, they'll have to battle him in a grand trial. He wants to see if they have what it takes. Ash becomes hyped. After all, he and Hal have never had an official normal battle yet, and Hal realizes that he's right. Hal accepts the challenge. After all, he has to live up to his grandfather's name. Nanu says that the battle can be quick. 3 one-on-one battles will be good enough. Whoever gets 2 wins will be the victor. Ash and Hal agree to the terms. Ash and Hal call out their Pokemon at the same time, and it seems they both went with their newest captures. Ash sends out Jangmo-o, and Hal sends out Crystal. Jangmo-o growls at Crystal when she enters the battle, and the little Cubone shivers slightly. But Hal encourages her, telling her it'll be fine. Rotodex allows the battle to commence. Ash commands Dragon Breath, and the attack does decent damage to Crystal. Hal has her strike back with Bone Club. Jangmo-o tries to use the skill in her head to take the brunt of the attack, and pushes Cubone back. Ash tells Jangmo-o to use Dual Chop, but Hal has Crystal deflected with Bone Rush. The Pokemon each land hard hits against each other. Celine is impressed by the power of the recently obtained Pokemon. Ash tells Jangmo-o to go in for Brick Break, and the small dragon lunges forward. But right before she can land her attack, Crystal uses Bone Meringue. The first part of the attack knocks Jangmo-o back, interrupting her attack, and disorienting her. Ash calls out to her, but before she can recover, a second strike from the Bone Meringue strikes, knocking her out, giving Hal the first win. He congratulates Crystal on her victory, and the little Cubone rushes over to Hal, cuddling up to him in glee. Ash recalls Jangmo-o, telling her that she'll do better next time. The duo sends out their next 2 Pokemon, Torracat for Ash, and Raichu for Hal. Torracat starts out with a Flame Charge, but Raichu dodges with her speed. Hal then orders Shockwave, which hits Raichu hard. Ash then has Torracat keep using Flame Charge to increase his own speed, and eventually it allows him to strike hard with a Fire Fang. But Hal decimates this plan by using Thunder Wave to slow Torracat down once more. Ash feels like he has no choice, other than to keep calling out Flame Charges, though Torracat struggles to maintain his speed. Hal then orders Raichu to use Psyshock, and the attack lands hard, as Paralysis stops Torracat from dodging. Hao decides to finish things with another shockwave, but Torracat has a burst of fire energy envelop him. It's his Blaze ability. He manages to use a powered-up Ember to intercept the shockwave and hit Raichu. This attack causes her to falter and fall out of the air. From there, a firefight manages to defeat the Pokemon. Ash praises Torracat for a great win, and Hao likewise tells Raichu that she did a great job. One win for each. It's now down to their final Pokemon. Ash sends out Tiny, and Hao sends out Komala. Everyone is stunned to see Hao use a Pokemon with a type disadvantage, but he says that he has faith in his Pokemon. Ash then has Tiny start with Fling, tossing his berry at Komala, but Hao uses the same strategy he used in his Lush Jungle trial, and has Komala use its Pillow Log to deflect the attack. With Tiny disarmed, Komala can rush in with Acrobatics, dealing several hard hits to him. Nanu internally admits that he's impressed by both challengers' unique battling methods. Ash has Tiny use Low Sweep, but Komala is agile enough to dodge nearly every kick, and this infuriates the Passimian. Ash tells Tiny to calm down and observe Komala's movements to strike at the right time, and eventually he's able to do so, landing a heavy blow to the Koala. This allows Tiny to recover his weapon, and Ash is then able to order a smackdown attack, which lands. Hao commands Komala to use Slam, and he rushes in to bash the Passimian in the head with his log pillow, but Tiny's headgear lessens the blow of the hit, and he pushes it back easily. Ash decides to end things by pulling out his Z-Ring, equipped with his Fightinium Z. He poses along with Tiny, and the two execute all-out pummeling. A flurry of fist-shaped energy waves fly through the air at Komala, but Hao is ready to counter this. He and Komala do the pose for Breakneck Blitz, and the small Pokemon dashes around the field. However, this move was not used to attack Tiny, but rather to have the speed to dodge his attack. Komala managed to avoid nearly every hit. Tiny then lunges forward with a final powerful punch, while Komala rushes in using a flail in addition to the Breakneck Blitz. The Pokemon meet in the center of the battlefield, fists colliding, neither giving an inch. Eventually, both Pokemon are hurled backward and slam into the ground, unconscious. Kukui calls the battle as a tie. Ash goes over to check on Tiny, while Hao checks on Komala, who's already fallen back asleep. The Pokemon are returned to their Pokeballs, and Celine and Lily praise the two for their awesome battle. Nanu tells the kids that the battle was decent, but leaves it at that. He tells the boys that he looks forward to hearing how they do with their island trials, because they're still nowhere near ready to take him on. But this only gets Ash even more fired up to eventually battle him. Hao, though, is still his usual lax self. The group then decide to make their way to the bus stop. As the kids arrive to the bus stop, they are horrified to see a pack of Team Skullgrunts tampering with the bus stop sign. Celine immediately rushes over and demands they stop. But the grunts refuse, saying that if they can get rid of the sign, island challengers won't know where to catch the bus to get to Mount Hokulani. In a rage, Celine sends out her Pokemon to take them on, and the grunts do the same. Naturally, Celine effortlessly destroys the Team Skullgrunt Pokemon without many issues. Most of the grunts run off, but before they do, Celine asks them if it's true that Team Skull's leader is somewhere on Ula'ula, and the grunts actually confirm this. But they say that she shouldn't even bother seeking him out, as there's no way she'll be able to take him on. This annoys Celine, as it's the second time she's heard it. How strong is this guy? There's not much time to dwell on it as the bus arrives, so they head to the Hokulani Observatory. Once they arrive, Ash is hyped to get to the trial. But before he can even look for directions, they run into a familiar face. It's Elio. The island challenger is happy to see them, and asks how their island challenge has been going. The boys show off their newest Z crystals and the new Grand Trial completion stamp from their island challenge passports. Okay, y'all. I know I've never mentioned these before, but please just pretend Ash and Howard received the Island Challenge passports before they began their Island Challenge, as they should have, and got their stamps after beating the previous kahunas. I don't know how on earth I forgot about those, but yeah, I'm retconning them to have always had them here. Now back to the show. Ilio is impressed and shows off his new Z crystal, an Electrium Z, which he just got earlier today. Ash is beyond excited. He's wanted to use an Electric-type Z move with Pikachu for ages, so he wants to take on this trial as soon as possible. Elio tells him that the trial captain Sophocles is inside the observatory right now, and that they should head inside to request a trial right away. Ash and Hao decide to rush over to the observatory. Lily asks Elio what he plans to do now, and he says that he actually plans to head up to Blush Mountain to train his Pokemon. He heard that there were strong Pokemon in the area, so he wanted to check it out. The only thing that worried him was that he heard that Team Skull were causing trouble over there, so he'd hoped that he'd be able to avoid them. This has Celine on full alert. Considering those thugs just tried to sabotage the bus stop down the mountain, she wouldn't be surprised if they were also trying to cause havoc in the nearby area. She offers to go with Elio to survey the area for any Team Skull members, and he says that he's fine with her tagging along. Celine asks Lily if she wanted to come as well, but Lily decides to stay with Ash and Hal, since she really doesn't want to risk anything if Team Skull members truly are over there. So Celine and Elio head to Blush Mountain. Kukui tells Lily to stay safe. He'll catch up with them later, as he has some things he needs to do. Lily is curious what the professor is up to, but doesn't want to pry. She makes her way to the observatory and is surprised to see Ash and Hal outside, almost as if they'd only just got there. The boys admit that they got a bit lost, and Lily wonders how on earth they could have lost their way so quickly. Rotomdex angrily yells that they didn't even consult him as a map, resulting in them wandering aimlessly. Lily sighs, but regardless, they all enter the observatory, where they see 3 people, a short boy and 2 taller adults. Hal recognizes Sophocles as the trial captain, but is unfamiliar with the other 2. Ash, meanwhile, thinks one of the men looks extremely familiar. The adults introduce themselves as Malie, a cousin of Sophocles, and Samson Oak, cousin to Samuel Oak of the Kanto region. Ash is stunned to meet a relative of Professor Oak, but doesn't dwell too much on that, asking if he and Hal can take on his trial. Sophocles apologizes, but says that he won't be able to host another trial until tomorrow, since he has plans for tonight. Lily asks what's going on, and Samson Oak explains that all of them will be attending the meteor shower tonight. Malie explains what the event is, and how interesting Pokemon called Meteor will fall down from the sky and create a gorgeous show of colors from their inner cores. Ash, Hal, and Lily think this sounds amazing, so they ask if they can come as well. Sophocles agrees that they can join them on Starfall Hill nearby, where the event will be taking place. Rotomdex becomes excited to take pictures. Hal then asks where Celine is, as he wants her to see the meteor shower as well, and Lily says not to worry. She and Elio just went up Blush Mountain for a bit, and they should be back soon. Lily internally hopes that there won't be any Team Skull members on the mountain, and that Celine and Elio will indeed return without issues. While on Blush Mountain, Elio and Celine are faring well. Elio's training with his Pokemon is going great. Meanwhile, Celine has seen no sign of Team Skull. Perhaps it was a false alarm after all. The sun is beginning to set, and the sky casts a beautiful orange hue, when Elio suggests heading back. Celine agrees to this, and the 2 prepare to head off. But suddenly, they hear a loud explosion, and in the distance, a smoke cloud rises into the air. Both trainers wonder what could be going on. Celine immediately thinks it's the work of Team Skull, so she rushes toward the smoke. Elio naturally trails behind her. The 2 arrive at the source of the explosion, and Celine is stunned when her eyes meet Gladion. Gladion? What are you doing here? Oh, it's you. Immediately, Celine accuses the Team Skull member of doing something wrong, but Gladion tells her he's not done anything. He heard the explosion just as they did and rushed over. When he got there, 2 Pokemon were engaged in a fight, and he simply tried to break it up. Celine and Elio look over to see 2 Pokemon staring each other down in the middle of the area. Elio's Rotom Pokédex identifies the Pokemon as Rhydon and Turtonator. Rhydon fires a Rock Blast at Turtonator, and the Pokemon takes a heavy hit, falling over. As it falls over, the spikes on his back create a massive explosion, causing debris to fly out and hit Pokemon in the surrounding area. Immediately, Celine deduces that this must be what caused the explosions earlier. Gladion says that this situation is dangerous and they need to stop this brawl. Gladion offers to handle Rhydon and asks Celine and Elio to take care of Turtonator. Celine is annoyed, not wanting to take orders from a Team Skull member, but even she knows that now is not the time to be concerned with that, so she agrees. Gladion sends out Null, his Lycanroc, and his Zorua. The Pokemon manage to deal a decent beating to Rhydon, while also managing to protect the Pokemon in the surrounding space. This impresses Celine, and she starts to see Gladion in a different light. Maybe Celine is right, and the guy isn't so bad. But still, he works with Team Skull. How can she trust anyone like that? She lets it go and focuses on the battle in front of her. Ariel is able to hold back Turtonator's fire-type attacks with Water Gun and Bubble Beam, while Elio's Mudbray can deal hard hits with high horsepower. But Turtonator proves itself to be exceedingly strong. It hits back with Flamethrower, Focus Blast, and even uses Dragon Tail to forcibly switch out Elio and Celine's Pokemon. Ariel is fought with Peach, who is nearly decimated by Flamethrower. Elio's Marini only just manages to intercept the attack with Protect. Celine realizes that this can't go on. Gladion meanwhile has defeated the Rhydon, and the Pokemon meekly chooses to head elsewhere. As such, Gladion has his Lycanroc use a surprise Stone Edge on Turtonator. The Pokemon is caught off guard and takes a huge hit. This allows Elio and Celine's Pokemon to deal a major combo attack, knocking the Pokemon out. Not wanting to risk something like this happening again, Celine hurls a heavy ball at the Pokemon, capturing it. Celine is thrilled over this catch, and Elio congratulates her on the powerful capture, saying that he's sure she'll raise it well. Gladion likewise thanks the two for working with him, and Celine begrudgingly thanks him as well. Gladion asks how his sister is doing, and this snaps Celine back to reality. It's late, and the others are probably looking for her. She needs to head back to the Hokulani Observatory. Gladion scolds Celine for being forgetful and leaving his sister waiting. Knowing her, she's probably worried sick. Celine ignores the boy and prepares to run off, but before leaving, she turns back to Gladion with a single question on her mind. Gladion, I heard Team Skull's boss is here on Ula'ula. Is that true? Gladion stares at her harshly, but he reluctantly nods. Yes, he's here, but I'm warning you, do not challenge him. You will regret it, the boy says, and he walks off without another word. Celine is angered, as she didn't even get to ask where on the island the boss is, but the confirmation from Gladion is enough for her to keep her guard up. She will challenge this guy, and she will defeat him. Celine and Elio make it back to the observatory as the dark nighttime sky spreads over the area. As expected, Lily is frantic, asking where they were. What happened? Was it Team Skull? Elio and Celine explain the situation, with Celine even sending out her new Turtonator to prove everything. Lily is somewhat calmed upon hearing that they're okay, but is surprised to hear of her brother's presence on the island. She wonders what he's doing there. Meanwhile, Ash is impressed by the new Pokemon for Celine, as it looks really strong. Hal, on the other hand, is just glad that they made it back in time for the meteor shower. Everyone gathers on top of Starfall Hill as the meteor shower begins. The kids send out all of their Pokemon, and some of Sophocles' Pokemon join as well. The Pokemon all seem to get along, and in particular, his Togedemaru seems to have a strong liking toward Ash's Pikachu. Pikachu is rather shy about all the extra attention, but Togedemaru seems to have no boundaries. Celine thinks the Pokemon is adorable and asks about it. Sophocles admits that technically, the Togedemaru, which he'd named Sylvia, isn't even his, though he has a Pokeball for her. She showed up to the observatory one day and just stuck around, but she's kind of mischievous and often gets away of Sophocles' trial captain duties. But he doesn't have the heart to ask her to leave or anything. Celine is shocked as she finds the Pokemon adorable and would love to have one for herself. The meteor shower begins soon enough, and humans and Pokemon alike are in awe. Numerous meteor fall from the sky, and a rainbow of colors creates a beautiful show. The gang's Pokemon play with the energetic little creatures, and many of them seem to be fascinated with Moon. This has Lily wondering more about Moon and where it really came from. Those Ultra Recon people made it seem like Moon was from another world, but where could that be? Is it where Meteor is from? Or somewhere else? Nebby likewise seems to be enjoying itself, as it plays with the numerous creatures. Time flies as the Pokemon continue playing around all throughout the night. One of the Meteor takes a grand liking to Ash and his Pokemon. They play together the entire time, and is rarely seen separated from them. Even the Rotom bonds with the Pokemon and takes numerous pictures of it. After a large amount of time has passed, the Meteor begins slowly floating back up to the sky, confusing the kids. But Malie explains that this is normal. The Meteor fall down to Earth due to the heaviness of their shells, then return back to where they came from once they become lighter. Everyone finds this to be cool, but what surprises the kids is that one of the Meteor, the one that befriended Ash's Pokemon, doesn't seem to want to leave. Ash asks Malie if this is normal, and Malie says that it isn't. Usually all the Meteors simply return home. The fact that this one stayed behind means that it must really want to stay with Ash. But Ash best catch it quickly, because Meteor need to be connected to a Pokeball after their shell breaks or they may fade away into dust. Ash asks the Pokemon if it's sure it wants to stay with him, and it nods. So Ash quickly rummages through his bag and pulls out a Moon Ball. He taps the Pokeball against the little blue creature, adding the Pokemon to his team. Sylvia the Togedemaru sees this, and she rushes over to Ash as well. She also wants to be caught by him, so she can be with Pikachu. But Pikachu doesn't seem too crazy about the idea. Ash pets the round creature on the head and tells her that she should stay with Sophocles. After all, he may miss her if she leaves. This has Sylvia pouting, but by this time, everyone's attention is back on the Meteor. They all wave goodbye to the stars as they return home. Sophocles thanks Ash and Hal for being willing to push back their trials for him. As such, he'll allow them to take on his trial first thing in the morning. This pleases the boys, and they're hyped for their upcoming battles. Ilya also tells the group that he'll be heading off in the morning, but he hopes to see them again in the future. The next morning, Ash, Hal, Celine, and Lily head over to the Hokulani Observatory for the boys' 5th island trial. Ash is thrilled to finally be having another trial, whereas Hal is curious about what type of trial this will be. Well, when they enter the building, Sophocles is clearly in a state of distress. He informs them that he was all set to call upon the totem Pokemon, but the necessary Charger Bug wandered off. As such, he's requesting that they find and return all the Charger Bug so that they can summon the totem Pokemon. This will be their trial. Ash and Hau are fine with this change in circumstances, so they rush outside. Using their Pokemon, they pretty easily locate all the Charger Bug and return them to the observatory, where Sophocles has moved his machine out front. From there, Sophocles can have them use their electric-type moves to power up a machine, which should summon the totem Pokemon. The Charger Bug fire their attacks and create a huge amount of electricity, far more than Sophocles expected. As the electricity is surging wildly and everyone is trying to take cover, they hear a loud buzzing sound. The group looks up to the sky to see an enormous Pokemon. Realmdex identifies it as Vikavolt. As Vikavolt dives down, another Pokemon soon makes its presence. From atop the observatory hops down a massive Togedemaru. Sylvia chirps loudly upon seeing the large version of herself, and Celine grabs her to keep her safe. Wow, 2 totems showed up. It must be because of how much electricity the Charger Bug used. And right at that moment, the Charger Bug finally exhaust themselves and stop firing their attacks. Now, 2 totem Pokemon face Ash and Hau. What do you say, Ash? Another challenge? Challenge? Sophocles asks, confused. Ash and Hau always come up with some kind of competition whenever they face totem Pokemon. They're basically rivals. Yeah, but so far, they've tied it every single one. Sophocles remarks on how interesting the rivalry between Ash and Hau is. Ash meanwhile nods to Hau. Sure, what were you thinking this time? We both have 6 Pokemon now. Why don't we try to beat our totem without having any Pokemon go down in battle? That would be an interesting challenge. It would test to see if you guys can tell your own Pokemon's limits, Malie says. Alright, that works for me. Good. Ash and Hau then send out their Pokemon. Ash decides to use Torracat first, since Vikavolt is a bug type. Torracat goes in for Flame Charge first, and he lands a few hard hits. Vikavolt strikes back with Spark. Torracat is hit hard, but is able to land a close-up Fire Fang. Vikavolt recoils and sends out a Charger Bug ally to attack. It uses String Shot to restrain Torracat. While tied up, Totem Vikavolt takes the opportunity to use Charge. Torracat uses Flame Charge to burst free from the String Shot and then rush forward toward Vikavolt. But it grabs Torracat with Vice Grip, then slams him into the ground. Hau, on the other hand, shocks everyone by sending out Vaporeon. Togedemaru starts off by using Iron Head, but Vaporeon dodges by using Dig. The Dig strikes hard, but it seems Togedemaru wanted Vaporeon to get in close, to hit a close-range Zing Zap. Hau is petrified, but Vaporeon is still standing. He has Vaporeon use Water Pulse, but Togedemaru dodges with Bounce. He then goes in for Iron Head, which deals a hard hit to Vaporeon. Hau tries a Shadow Ball, but Togedemaru blocks it with Spiky Shield. Hau notices that Totem Vikavolt has already called in an ally. Meanwhile, Togedemaru is taking on Vaporeon effortlessly on its own. This has Hau feeling a bit relieved though, since it means he has fewer Pokemon to deal with. Meanwhile, Celine inwardly worries if this means that Hau's totem doesn't seem as much of a challenge as Vikavolt finds Ash. Speaking of Ash, he recalls Torracat and sends out Jangmo-o. He has Jangmo-o start by using Dragon Breath on Charjabug. The attack lands, but the ally blinds the small dragon with Mud Slap. Jangmo-o tries to use Brick Break, but she keeps missing. Vikavolt then goes in for Bug Bite, which deals a hard blow. Ash tells Jangmo-o to calm down and relax, and she's able to get the dirt off of her face. But she still seems angry and rushes in for a strong Dual Chop. The attack hits Vikavolt, but it barely seems phased, and strikes back with Spark. Jangmo-o is thrown back, but Ash orders a quick Dragon Breath. The attack hits Charjabug and takes it down. Hau meanwhile recalls Vaporeon and sends out Komala. Togedemaru goes in for Zing Zap, and Komala intercepts the attack with Brick Break. This super effective move actually deals a decent hit and knocks the totem Pokemon back. Togedemaru frowns angrily and calls upon its ally, but this ally winds up being Skarmory. Skarmory uses Tailwind, which allows it and Togedemaru to move much faster and strike Komala for hard hits. Komala quickly becomes overwhelmed, so Hau recalls it and sends in Raichu. He orders a Shockwave to hit Skarmory, but the attack is pulled toward Togedemaru instead. Sophocles tells Hau that the totem Togedemaru's ability is Lightning Rod, meaning it'll draw in all electric-type attacks. Hau grimaces, since this ruins his plans. Even worse, Skarmory uses Stealth Rock, meaning now Hau's Pokemon will become injured upon switching. Hau is beyond stressed now. Back to Ash, Jangmo-o is using continuous Dual Chops against Vikavolt. but it appears barely phased. It then strikes with Spark, paralyzing the little dragon. Ash recalls Genmo and sends out Tiny. Totem Vikavolt surprises Ash by calling upon another ally, this one being an Electabuzz. This is the first time a totem has needed to call on 2 allies. Electabuzz uses Electro Ball, but Tiny uses Fling to deflect the attack. His berry strikes Electabuzz in the face. He then goes in for a low sweep, knocking Electabuzz off his feet. Vikavolt uses Bug Bite, but Tiny takes the attack well. He then breaks free and uses Smackdown, landing a devastating hit to Vikavolt. Electabuzz goes in for Brick Break, but Tiny takes the attack head-on. Electabuzz's hand is hurt by Tiny's helmet, and he uses a close-up close combat, taking down Electabuzz. But as Electabuzz falls, Vikavolt uses Spark, landing a direct hit on the Passimian, which paralyzes him. Ash then switches out Tiny for Lycanroc. Hao meanwhile switches out Raichu for Crabrawler, taking a hit from Stealth Rock. Crabrawler uses Power Punch for a hard hit on Togedemaru, but it blocked with Spiky Shield. Skarmory then dives in for Steel Wing, but Crabrawler deflects it with Crab Hammer. Hao is struggling, and he knows he needs to land a hard hit, so he takes out his Titanium Z and puts it in his Z-Ring. He then has Crabrawler use All-Out Pummeling. The attack is able to hit Togedemaru and break through its Spiky Shield, knocking the totem on its back. Skarmory uses Drill Peck on Crabrawler, but once again he intercepts with a strong Crab Hammer. He then has Crabrawler go in for another Power Punch, while Skarmory uses Steel Wing. The attacks collide and it results in a double knockout. Hao is slightly relieved at finally taking down the ally Pokemon, but he's also upset that he actually lost a Pokemon, meaning he failed his challenge. But he can't dwell on that now, as the battle is still going on. He sends out Crystal, who is slightly hurt by the Stealth Rock. Ash has Lycanroc use Excel Rock, and Totem Vikavolt grabs the Pokemon with Vice Grip. It then slams the Pokemon down on the ground. Ash tries to have Lycanroc strike with Rock Throw. Her attack lands, but Vikavolt is able to hit a powerful Spark to retaliate. This attack paralyzes Lycanroc too, slowing her down immensely. Ash commands Excel Rock, but Lycanroc is unable to move, and she takes a Bug Bite to the face. Lycanroc is furious over not being able to attack, and her eyes furiously glow red. Ash decides to recall the wolf, and sends out his newest Pokemon, Meteor. Meteor uses Power Gem, which lands a hard hit for super effective damage. Vikavolt uses Charge to power up, and then goes in for Spark. The attack hits very hard, but Meteor is able to withstand the blow thanks to her hard shell. The shell begins to crack though. Okay guys, I know that Meteor is a genderless, gender unknown species, whatever you want to call it, but as I mentioned in another one of my series, I am so bad about calling Pokemon it. I know it's so ironic and so odd, but I just can't call Pokemon it. I have to call them he or she or something. So if I accidentally call Meteor he or she, I'm probably going to call it she, but just know that I know that Meteor doesn't have a gender, but I'm just really bad at calling Pokemon it. Back to Hao, he has Crystal use Bone Club. Togedemaru dodges with Bounce. It lands and hits Crystal for major damage. Cubone struggles to her feet, and Togedemaru takes the chance to hit Iron Head. Crystal intercepts the attack with her own Iron Head and withstands the hit. She then uses Boomerang, but Togedemaru uses Spiky Shield to block the attack once again. But this is what Hao wanted. The first pass of Boomerang breaks the shield, and the other lands a massive hit on Togedemaru from behind. The Pokemon stumbles, so Hao has Crystal use Bone Rush. The attack deals a devastating hit, taking Togedemaru down. Hao is stunned when he sees the Pokemon fall. He actually won, and before Ash did. Malie praises Hao for his victory, as does Sophocles. Lily and Celine are happy for him as well, and all eyes are on Ash now. Vikavolt continues to do hard hits to Meteor, cracking its shell ever so slightly. Eventually, Meteor begins glowing bright red, and the shell shatters completely. Rotomdex identifies this as Meteor using Shell Smash, and as the totem goes in for Spark, Meteor dodges with an impressive speed. Sophocles explains that Meteor's speed and attack powers increase when its shell breaks, but it also becomes defensively weaker thanks to its Shields Down ability, so Ash needs to be careful. Ash already knows what he needs to do. Vikavolt continues to pursue Meteor, but it dodges attacks so fast that it looks like it's teleporting. Ash then places his newest Z Crystal in his Z-Ring, strikes a pose, and orders Continental Crush from Meteor. With Meteor's speed and newfound power, it is able to launch the massive attack at Vikavolt. Totem tries to smash through a Spark, but is struggling due to the size of the boulder. Meteor managed to push the Z-move down at full force, defeating the Totem. Ash thus completes his trial as well. Ash happily goes over to high-five Hao, while Hao congratulates Ash for winning their challenge, since he took down the Totem Vikavolt and 2 allies without losing a single Pokemon. While Ash is happy to have won, he tells Hao that he should be proud for taking down Totem Togedemaru sooner than he beat Vikavolt. tells the boys that both of them did well and hands the two of them Electrium Z crystals. Both are thrilled to have Z crystals to use with their electric types. Malie tells the two that the only other trial on Ula'ula is at the abandoned Thrifty Mega Mart, so they should head over there. He gives the two of them Steelium Z crystals as well. Ash and Hao thank Sophocles and Malie, then head over to the Pokemon Center with Lily and Celine to heal up their Pokemon. While at the center, the kids reunite with Kukui. They ask what he had been doing, and he tells them that he's happy to show them. Outside the center, he points out Mount Lanakila and tells the kids that he plans to establish Alola's first Pokemon League there. This stuns the Alola natives and excites Ash, as he loves competing in Pokemon Leagues, even though he's only won one so far in this universe. Celine asks how this league will even function, but Kukui says that he's still talking it over with the island kahunas, so nothing is set in stone. In the meanwhile, the four of them best head over to their next trial site. He also reminds the kids to ask Nanu about getting Z-Power rings when they meet him again, and they assure him that they will. The kids take the bus back down to Malie City, where they hear of a commotion going on. They rush over to see a bunch of kids surrounded by Team Skull grunts. Celine rushes over and demands to know what they're doing. And of course, they've stolen the kids' island amulets. Celine immediately challenges them with her Pokemon, and a battle ensues. As usual, Celine is able to defeat the grunts with her Pokemon's powerful attacks. But unlike previous encounters, these grunts do not hand over the island amulets upon their defeat. Instead, they rush into the Malie garden. She and the others pursue them, and Celine asks them what gives. Then out of nowhere, they hear a voice. No one is getting anything back. Not if I have anything to say. The kids turn around to see a tall gangster in similar attire to the Team Skull grunts, along with the pink-haired lady from before. Who are you? It's your boy Guzma, boss of Team Skull. Celine flinches. So you're the leader of these cowards? Celine yells. Plumeria tells Celine that she has some nerve yelling at their leader like that. But Guzma actually approaches her. I've heard a lot about you, kid. Sounds like you've been giving my lackeys a hard time. Well, now you're gonna deal with me, the man says, pulling out a Pokeball. Great. I've wanted to battle you for a while now, Celine replies. Lily urges her against it. After all, Gladion warned them how strong Team Skull's leader was. But Celine brushes her off, saying it's fine, she can handle this guy. Ash, Hao, and Lily are nervous. This guy does not seem like his subordinates. He actually looks like someone who can put up a fight. Lily remembers how much of a challenge Plumeria was, and this guy is supposed to be much stronger. She knows that Celine is a powerful battler, but she can't help but worry. Guzma says that a 3-on-3 should suffice, but he doesn't expect to even need all three. He sends out his Ariados first, and Celine uses Meadow. Celine commands a Revelation Dance, but before she can fully execute it, Guzma orders Sucker Punch. The Oricorio gets smacked backward, but rises to her feet. Lily points out that Meadow is weak to the Dark-type move, now that she is part Ghost-type. Celine orders an Air Cutter, and this does a decent amount of damage. Guzma orders Infestation, which traps Meadow and deals constant damage to her. Meadow goes in for Acrobatics, but Ariados dodges with Shadow Sneak. Guzma then has his Pokemon use Fell Stinger, which does a big hit. Meadow continues to be torn apart by the infestation, and is falling weaker. Ash is stunned at how badly Meadow is being beaten. She's normally one of Celine's better battlers. Hal wonders if it's because of Meadow's new form that she's not used to battling in. Celine commands another Revelation Dance, but another Sucker Punch takes her down. Celine is floored that she lost a Pokemon with a type advantage. Lily calls out to her and tells her that maybe she should call off the battle, but Celine refuses. She decides to go with her newest capture, her Turtonator, which she's named Spike. Spike roars flames into the sky as he enters the battlefield. Celine orders a flamethrower, but Ariados dodges with Shadow Sneak and goes in to land a hit. But Celine orders Spike to turn around and use Shell Trap at the last second. He does so, and the massive attack blasts the spider away, taking it down. Celine and her friends are happy about her victory, but Guzma and his grunts become enraged. The man sends out a second Pokemon, Golisopod. He has the Pokemon use First Impression as soon as it enters battle. Spike tries to use Flamethrower, but Golisopod is too fast and smacks him backward. This has the giant turtle beast annoyed. Celine orders Dragon Tail, but Golisopod dodges and uses Swords Dance. Guzma then orders a Razor Shell. Celine orders Spike to use Shell Trap, but Golisopod rushes around to avoid Turtonator spikes and attacks him from the front. Spike is now fuming and uses an unprompted Flamethrower, which Golisopod dodges. Celine orders Dragon Tail, but Spike ignores her and uses Flamethrower again. Guzma and his cronies begin to laugh at Turtonier's disobedience, and the Team Skull leader orders a liquidation. Celine once again begs Spike to use Shell Trap, but this time he uses Dragon Tail. Golisopod is able to intercept the move with one of his claws. Spike faces his opponent and prepares a flamethrower, but Golisopod slashes him in the face with a Razor Shell, knocking him out. Celine is distraught at how terribly that battle went. She only has one Pokemon left she can use now. Plumeria taunts her with the grunts, telling her to just forfeit now. But Celine refuses. As she thinks of a Pokemon she wants to send out, a small ball of light rushes toward Golisopod on the battlefield. He's able to intercept the ball with one of his claws and push it back, but Guzma is enraged. Hey, what's going on here? I'm the only one allowed to play dirty around here. The kids are likewise shocked, until the ball of energy lands in front of Celine. It's a Togedemaru. Celine instantly recognizes it as the adorable Togedemaru Sophocles had, the one who liked Pikachu, Sylvia. Celine is beyond confused at the little Pokemon's presence, but before she can even ask anything, Sylvia launches an unprompted Gyro Ball at Guzma's Pokemon. Guzma has Golisopod strike back with Liquidation, sending Sylvia flying. Wow, you really thought having your final Pokemon surprise me out of nowhere was going to help you win? This is a joke. Guzma commands Golisopod to finish off Sylvia with Razor Shell. The Pokemon dives in, and Celine, in a panic, tells Sylvia to use Zing Zap again. The attacks collide, but since Golisopod has a free hand, he is able to land the finishing blow to Sylvia, knocking her out. Celine falls to the ground, distraught. She lost. Not only lost, but lost embarrassingly. Guzma was right. He didn't even need to use a third Pokemon. Celine goes over to collect the injured Togedemaru, while Guzma and the rest of Team Skull mock the girl. You're pathetic. Stay off Team Skull's way from now on, kid. Ash and Hal yell at the man, telling him that they'll never stop doing everything they can to preserve the integrity of the Island Challenge and stop Team Skull's plans. Meanwhile, Lily comforts Celine, telling her that in spite of everything, she battled well. Celine disagrees, however, and simply tells Lily that she needs to get her Pokemon treated at the Pokemon Center. Celine walks off, tears in her eyes, not noticing the figure watching her the entire time. While at the Pokemon Center, Celine contacts Sophocles with the Rotom Pokédex and explains what happened with Sylvia. Sophocles surprisingly doesn't seem all too upset, and actually urges Celine to keep the Togedemaru, saying that she'd probably be happier going on adventures, especially since she really likes Ash's Pikachu and can hang out with him now. He even offers to transfer over her Pokeball immediately. Celine is a bit off-put by Celine's extreme willingness to get rid of the little hedgehog, but she finds Sylvia super adorable and would love to have her on the team, so she doesn't mention it. Sophocles instead sends over Sylvia's Quick Ball during her treatment. But Celine can't even be happy about the new capture, as she's still upset over losing so badly to Team Skull's leader. She really thought she'd be able to end Team Skull's reign over the region, considering how weak most Team Skull members are, but at this point she's unsure. As long as Guzma is their boss, she stands no chance at doing anything to stop the organization. She thinks it over, and decides that she needs to start an intense training regimen. She needs to become stronger if she's to defeat Guzma. The next morning, Ash, Hao, and Lily wake up to a note from Celine, saying she went off to do some training, and she'll be back by dinner. The three are slightly concerned, but Ash says that he trusts Celine, and he's sure she'll be fine. In the meanwhile, he also thinks that he should do some training, so he suggests that they all go do some as well. But Hao asks if they can stop for malasadas along the way, which the others agree to. As they leave the Pokemon Center, they pass by a building. Ash doesn't think anything of it until Pikachu points out the sign. It's a Cantonian gym. This stuns Lily and Hao, as they'd never heard of a gym in Alola. Ash is of course excited to check it out, and when the trio enters, they're met with a guy in a bright red outfit. The man identifies himself as Ryuki, the leader. Ash asks if he's a gym leader, but he explains that since Alola doesn't actually have official gyms, he can't hold the title of gym leader, but his role functions the same. He asks the kids if they want to battle, and Ash and Hao say yes. Ryuki asks Lily if she wants to battle, and she says that she'd rather not, since battling isn't really her strong suit. But Ryuki pulls out an electric guitar and encourages her to participate. He even offers to battle the three of them at once, in a triple battle. This catches Ash off guard. He hadn't participated in a triple battle in ages, but he thinks it'll be fun, so he encourages Lily to join the battle. Lily thinks it over and realizes that she should also be working on becoming stronger, just like Celine, so she agrees. Meanwhile, outside, the kids are being observed. Fico and Soliera are peering through the windows, looking to get more data on Lily's Poipole. Fico expresses shock at having recently found out that Lily is Lucimine's daughter, since she wasn't there when they got hired, and Lucimine never mentioned having a child. Soliera meanwhile focuses on recording battle in secret. That said, they're disappointed when Lily sends out her Vulpix into battle. Soliera asks if they should not bother recording since Lily isn't even using Po, but Fico says that they may as well collect data on how Lily has changed as a battler over time, if at all. With the Malasada in hand, Hal calls out Dartrix, and the bird gracefully flies onto the battlefield, next to Snowy. Ash then sends out Jangmo-o, wanting her to get more battle experience. Ryuki sends out his chosen 3 Pokemon, Aswilius, Dredigan, and Drampa. The battle starts out with Ryuki taking control right off the bat. His Pokemon are able to cover each other while also dealing damage to their opponents. Zwilius dives in for a Dragon Rush towards Snowy, but Dartrix flies in to grab her without even being asked by Hal. Lily then commands her to use an aerial powder snow, which deals a lot of damage to the dragons. Lily thanks Hal for the assistance, even though Dartrix acted on his own. Hal then orders the bird to use a Razor Leaf, which Ryuki's Pokemon dodge. Drampa uses Hyper Voice, which disorients the opposing Pokemon. Dredigan goes in for a Dragon Claw against Jangmo-o. The small Pokemon tries to fight back with Dual Chop, but gets hit backward. Dredigan goes for a Focus Blast next. Ash begs Jangmo-o to dodge, but she only has time to flip onto her feet and brace for impact as the attack flies toward her. However, the scale on her head begins to glow as the Focus Blast collides into her. She then pushes back against it, and with a loud roar, the move is destroyed. Ash is confused until Rotondex yells at him, telling him that he already told him that Jangmo-o's ability was bulletproof. Moves like Focus Blast can't hurt her. Ash sheepishly remembers this and becomes more confident now. Snowy is now on Dartrix's back, and the two of them launch a combined aerial powder snow and leafage at Zwilius and Drampa. Zwilius launches a Dark Pulse, but Dartrix slices through it with Razor Leaf. Snowy's powder snow begins growing stronger the more she uses it, and eventually it becomes a massive blizzard attack. The blizzard winds up taking down Zwilius, while Drampa is still standing. Dredigan likewise is still dealing with Jangmo-o. Dredigan goes in for Dragon Claw, but Jangmo-o tries to hold him off with Dragon Breath. From behind, Dartrix shoots a sharp Razor Leaf directly into the center of Dredigan's back, causing the Pokemon to freeze in pain. Snowy then uses a Blizzard, while Jangmo-o jumps up to land a Brick Break to the head. Dredigan then topples over in defeat. Only Drampa remains, and Ryuki praises the trainers on their skills, but he says that it's not over yet. He orders a Draco Meteor from Drampa. As the elderly dragon is charging up the move, Hal rushes in, and after taking a bite of his Malasada, he declares that it's Z-move time. He and Dartrix execute the poses for Bloom Doom, and the attack is launched, as is the Draco Meteor. Snowy and Jangmo-o dash around the field to avoid the falling meteors. Once they get a clear shot, they add their Blizzard and Dragon Breath attacks to the Bloom Doom, and a massive explosion shakes the gym. As the dust clears, Drampa is knocked out, meaning Ash, Hal, and Lily have won. Ryuki congratulates the kids on their victory, and even awards them with his own handmade badges. The kids are thrilled over their win, with Lily being especially glad over Snowy's new move. Fico and Soliera end their video recording. Though they're disappointed that they weren't able to see Po, having footage of Lily's battling should surely be beneficial for the Aether Foundation. The two quietly make their exit, alerting Lucine that they'll be back soon. While all of this was going on, Celine was doing some training with her Pokemon. She and her Pokemon are trying to battle each other in an effort to become stronger, but Celine just isn't liking how things are going. She doesn't feel like her Pokemon will be able to match Guzma at this rate. The man's battling style is so harsh, nothing like anything Celine has ever seen before. Celine is frustrated, which is also upsetting her Pokemon, to the point that they start bickering with each other. They all continue to rage until a stray burst of wind flies toward the group. Before it can strike them, Ariel creates a giant bubble balloon to deflect the move at the last minute. Celine and her Pokemon look over to see Gladion standing with Null. Celine grimaces as the boy approaches her. She does not want to deal with him right now. Brion is decent, but if all of your Pokemon can't handle sneak attacks like that, you'll never stand up to Team Skull's boss. Celine groans. For your information, I battled him. And lost. I know. I saw the whole thing. This statement surprises Celine, as she was unaware of him even being around. Guess you're here to gloat then. I'm here to help you. Celine and all of her Pokemon are surprised by this, asking why on earth he'd want to help her. Her goal is to defeat his group. Gladion tells her that she's way too caught up on his status as a Team Skull enforcer, and asks if she wants his help or not. Celine really doesn't want help from a Team Skull member, but Gladion obviously knows way more about the Team Skull boss than she does, so accepting his help is probably best for right now. Alright, let's do this. Gladion wants to start with Meadow. He was also shocked by her poor battle performance, but believes that it is likely just that she isn't used to being in her new form, so naturally he feels like she should battle in this form more. He has her spar with his Lightning Rock, and she starts to get used to battling as a ghost type. She also takes the time to simply dance outside of battle, so she can become accustomed to her natural movements. Gladion tells Celine that it's best to allow a Pokemon to take the time to grow into their new skin after something like an evolution or other form change. He mumbles how he had to do the same with Null, but Celine misses the comment. Next, Gladion works with Peach. The Balance Beam battles Porygon 2, remembering her defeat against it previously. The Pokemon clash their attacks together constantly. Energy Ball versus Zap Cannon, Solar Beam versus Hyper Beam. The situation is intense. Gladion says that Balance Beam's battle style might be able to improve if she learns a non-grass type move for more diversity in battle. He notices the way her Calyx spins around, which actually allows her the ability to fly, and this gives him the idea to have her learn Rapid Spin. The trainers work together for hours, simply having Peach spin around while attacking. She gets dizzy very often, but eventually she is able to maintain her focus and use a Rapid Spin against Porygon 2. Sylvie is the next Pokemon Gladion wants to train with, since she joins Celine's team in such a non-standard way. He points out that the Togedemaru has a great fighting spirit, which is good. He has her face Zorora, who is known for using tricky tactics of transforming into other Pokemon. He reminds Celine to always expect the unexpected if she wants to face Guzma again. Celine and Sylvia are able to get in sync and actually take down Zora in a practice battle. Gladion deems Ariel and Honey as already having a good enough trust in Celine, so he has his other Pokemon train them on the side. Right now, he wants to work with Spike. The Turtonnado's performance in the second half of the battle was clearly a point of contention. He straight up stopped listening to Celine's commands right in the middle of the fight. Celine says that she has no idea why that happened. She's never had a Pokemon not listen to her before. Gladion tells her that just because she was able to catch a Pokemon doesn't mean it fully respects her. Clearly, Turtonator stopped trusting Celine's judgment as it noticed that it was being beaten in battle, but he also clearly has some level of respect for her since it obeyed her initially. It might simply have been flustered over things going south. He wants to have Spike battle Null, so he and Celine can build trust in each other. Celine agrees and they get right into the match. Celine has Spike start out with Flamethrower, but Null intercepts with Air Slash. Gladion then orders a Crush Claw. Null dives in for the attack, and Celine can tell Spike is getting antsy. She already knows what he wants to do. So right before the attack lands, Celine orders Shell Trap. Null makes contact with Spike's back, and the move results in an explosion. Spike seems happy that the attack worked, and Celine is happy as well. But Gladion doesn't let up and orders a Razor Wind. The attacks strike Spike, who is taking a lot of damage. Celine orders a Dragon Tail, but Spike doesn't move and instead launches a Flamethrower. Celine becomes saddened by the disobedience again, but Gladion calls out to her, telling her that she can't just call out attacks blindly without a plan, especially when she's battling Guzma, and he tells her to look at her Pokemon. Celine actually stops to observe the situation and sees that Spike is being pelted by Razor Wind and can barely move. Of course, he can't turn around to use Dragon Tail, but he can launch a Flamethrower in place. Celine realizes now that she needs to focus on battles while paying attention to all aspects, and to call out moves her Pokemon are confident will make a difference. Celine apologizes to Spike for not noticing this before and orders a Flamethrower. The attack is executed, but Null dodges. Gladion calls for a Razor Wind, and Celine tells Spike to use Dragon Tail to intercept. This works, and Celine has Spike immediately follow up with Focus Blast, which knocks Null back. From here, Gladion tells Null to use Crush Claw. Spike repairs a Shell Trap, but Gladion has Null run around him to strike from the front, the same way Guzma did with Golisopod. Celine freaks out that this will disrupt things, but calms down and orders a point-blank Flamethrower. This easily strikes Null and has a stumbling back. Celine can now order Close-Up Dragon Tail, which sends Null flying. The Pokemon lands in front of Gladion, and he calls for the end of the battle. Celine is annoyed and says that he's only ending things because she was winning. But Gladion says that this was never about a win. She's shown great improvement and learned how to battle better with her Pokemon. This in itself will guarantee her a better battle against Guzma should she face him again. Celine sighs but ultimately thanks Gladion for his help. He tells her that it was no big deal and holds out his hand to give her something. Isn't this Firium Z? Yeah. Hopefully you and Turtonator will be able to take advantage of it. Celine thanks Gladion as he turns to leave, but she asks a question before he walks away. Gladion, I don't plan on battling Guzma again anytime soon, but I need to know, where does he stay on Ula'ula? Gladion remains quiet for a long time, and he turns to leave without a word. Celine is disappointed, as she hoped to at least get this information, but Gladion stops and says 2 words before his final exit. Po Town. Celine reunites with her friends at the Pokemon Center, and they tell each other about their day's events. Lily is thrilled to hear that Gladion helped Celine out with training. Likewise, Celine is surprised to hear of the gym in Malie City. Overall, the kids are pleased with their training and decide to start making their way over to the next trial site in the morning. The group has been traveling for a few days now. Kukui has reached out to them and lets them know that they're on the path toward Tapu Village. He informs them that the location is a sacred space to honor Alola's guardians. He recommends them to pass by there, as there may be something important. As the kids get to the area, they come across a small group of Team Skull members. Naturally, the kids are suspicious. Celine immediately confronts them and asks what they're up to. None of your business. Yeah, why would we tell you that we're looking for the Aether House anyway? Lily flinches at the mention of Aether House, but her friends don't notice. The grunts find themselves smacked in the head by the other one for revealing their intentions. The entire horde then rush away. Celine immediately wants to follow them and encourages the others to assist. Ash and Hal are also in support, but Lily does not want to go. Celine asks why she wouldn't want to go after them. After all, they said they were going to a place called Aether House. What if it's related to the Aether Foundation? They might be trying to do something nefarious to an actual positive organization. Lily agrees that she has a point, but she says that she fears that this may be a trap. Hal admits that this is possible. Celine tells them that she can't risk Team Skull causing harm. She has her ride pager, so the others can go along and she'll meet back up with them later. With that, she then runs after the Skull Grunts. Lily wishes she could beg Celine not to go, but the girl can't be convinced. Ash doesn't think Celine should go alone, but Hal likewise doesn't think Lily should be left alone either. So Ash goes after Celine and Hal decides to stick with Lily. Meanwhile, at Aether House, the Team Skull Grunts have made it back, and waiting for them are Dulce and Zasi. Did the kids follow you? We're pretty sure. Those dumb kids fell for the bait easily. Keep it down. And keep your eyes out for the girl with the bag. Look, here come those brats. Yeah, but where's the bag, girl? What? She's not with them? Dulce yells. He looks out the window, and indeed, only 2 kids are followed along, and neither is the one they wanted. Dulce yells furiously at Team Skull over how they failed to lure the right person. The grunts argue back that they were certain that she'd follow her annoying friend with the Brion. What do we do now? Those kids are almost here. We need to get out of here. And whose fault is that again? Calm down, Dulce. We came up with our backup plan for a reason. I'll call in to the captain. Ash and Celine approach what they assume is Aether House, but they don't see any Team Skull members around. Naturally, they figure that they must be inside. They prepare to walk through the door, but are shocked when a voice calls out to them. They turn and are shocked to see the Masked Royal with his Incineroar. Ash asks what he's doing there, and he mentions that he was here to visit a friend. Likewise, he asks why they're there. Celine tells him that they saw some Team Skull Grunts who claimed that they were coming to Aether House, but didn't say why. She assumed they were there to cause trouble. This has Royal concerned, so they all decide to go into the house with caution. They open the doors, but no one is there aside from an Aether employee behind the desk. Celine asks the worker if they'd seen or heard any Team Skull Grunts around, but he says that he hasn't. The Masked Royal then asks if he'd seen one of Aether House residents, Child Captain Acerola. The employee says that she had been there earlier, but had left for Tapu Village a while ago. Celine is a bit unnerved by this. They clearly just heard that Team Skull Group say that they were going to the Aether House, but not only are there nowhere to be found, it seems that there wasn't even a hint of them. But then, what were they doing, and why would they say that? Without any reason to stick around, the kids figure that they may as well leave. Masked Royal agrees to go with them. Phew, that was close. Meanwhile, Lily and Hal continue down their original path and quickly make it to Tapu Village. Lily feels bad for having not followed Celine and Ash, but she can't risk Team Skull ambushing them. Hal tells her that she's justified in feeling cautious, but he personally doesn't think Team Skull is smart enough to plan something like that. If they came up with a plan like that, they'd surely have to have help from someone. And who'd want to help a group of jerks like Team Skull? Before either of the two can say anything else, a blast of fire shoots at them. Hal is able to push Lily out of the way quick enough. The kids are confused until they hear a voice. You two, stop right there. That voice. It sounds so familiar to Lily, but from where? She and Hal look up to see 2 people standing before them, a woman and an older man. and they're wearing the same uniforms as the Ultra Recon Squad members they'd seen before on Alola Island. Hey, what gives? Why did you just attack us? You? Are you guys part of the Ultra Recon Squad? Like Dos and Zasi? Yes, we are, the man says, and he introduces himself as Fico. His accomplice introduces herself as Soliera. Hal once again asks what they're doing. The adults are surrounded by Houndour and Slanded, and there's a Furfrou standing up front. All are snarling angrily. Hand over the Ultra Beast now. This comment from Fico has Hal and Lily beyond confused. Lily asks what on earth they're talking about. We aren't going to ask nicely again. If you don't surrender the beast now, we'll have no choice but to take it by force. Lily screams at them with tears in her eyes that she has no idea what they're talking about. You do, Poiple. Lily and Hal assume that they're referring to Moon, since it's the Pokemon the other Ultra Recon Squad members were curious about. But those two weren't nearly as aggressive about it as these two are. And could it really be true that Moon is an Ultra Beast? Fico and Soliera don't seem like they're too interested in waiting for an answer, because they command all of their Pokemon to attack. Lily is petrified. She knows she needs to protect Moon, not to mention Nebby. That Pokemon. Should I use it? Lily shakes the thought out of her head and sends out all of her Pokemon, and commands Cleffy to use Light Screen to protect them from the incoming attacks. Moon then bursts out of Lily's bag and fires off a Venoshock. Hal also sends out Vaporeon to hit Water Pulse at the enemy Fire-type Pokemon. A huge explosion rings out in the air. There you are, Poiple. Soliera yells that she and Fico aren't leaving without Poiple and orders the Pokemon to attack once more. A huge brawl ensues between Lily, Hal, and the Ultra Recon Squad's Pokemon. Surprisingly, Lily and Hal's Pokemon manage to knock out a lot of the Pokemon without issues. The only Pokemon that's putting up a good fight is the Furfrou. Meanwhile, the other Pokemon seem as weak as Team Skull Pokemon. Soliera orders Furfrou to use Takedown on Moon, and the attack hits hard, but the Pokemon recovers and lands a Poison Jab. Snowy is also able to use Blizzard to hit many of the opposing Pokemon at once. Meanwhile, a Gyro Ball from Sandy hits Furfrou from behind for big damage, but thanks to its ability, it withstands the hit. An Aqua Tail from Vaporeon is intercepted by Furfrou's bite, but Fell Stinger from Moon pushes the canine back, allowing Vaporeon to land a proper Aqua Tail, sending Furfrou flying. Fico and Soliera are beyond annoyed by this point. Furfrou is overwhelmed, and those other Pokemon are basically useless. They return the fainted Houndour and Slanded to their nest balls. I didn't think I'd have to do this, but it seems we have no choice, Soliera begins. Lily cautiously wonders what she's talking about, but her question is soon answered as the woman pulls back her sleeve to reveal a Z-ring. This is not good. Lily has no way to protect against a Z-move. She calls out to Hal. Flustered, he grabs a Z-crystal from his pocket and rushes to insert it on his Z-ring. Soliera calls for a breakneck blitz from her Furfrou, while Hal calls for the same attack from Vaporeon. The attacks collide, and both seem even. Soliera orders an additional Hyper Beam, while Hal orders Hydro Pump. An even bigger explosion bursts, sending Vaporeon and Furfrou flying. Each Pokemon struggles to get back to their feet, but ultimately, Furfrou has taken more damage, and falls. Fico and Soliera are beyond furious, but continue to demand Poipo regardless. Lily yells out that they should just leave. They have no Pokemon left who can battle, whereas she and Hal have plenty. But the Ultra Recon Squad members refuse to admit defeat. Soliera recalls Furfrou as Fico prepares to reach into his pocket to grab something, but before he can, he and Soliera are lifted into the air. Everyone is confused until a Gengar appears out of nowhere. The Gengar levitates Fico and Soliera around and slams them into the ground. It then hits the duo with a Confuse Ray before they can even react to what's happening, and they become completely incapacitated. Despite not being hit with the move, Lily and Hal are beyond confused on what's happening. Suddenly, Nebby bursts out of Lily's bag and uses Teleport. But it doesn't use the move on itself, but instead on the dazed Fico and Soliera. The two vanish into thin air in an instant, much to Lily and Hal's shock. What's going on here? A voice familiar to Lily calls out. The kids look over to see Acerola approaching. The Gengar cheerfully flies over to her. Who were those guys, and why were they attacking you? Wait a minute, who are you? Hal asks. Lily explains how she and Celine had previously met Acerola at Malie Library when they first arrived to the island. With that explanation out of the way, Hal explains their limited history with the Ultra Recon Squad, but says that he has no clue why they were just attacked. It seemed like they were after one of Lily's Pokemon, but didn't explain why. Acerola asks Lily if she's alright, and she confirms that she is. She thanks Acerola for coming to their rescue. At that moment, Ash, Celine, and the Masked Royal catch up. Ash mentions that he had heard an explosion in the area and wondered what was going on. They had no idea it would be related to Hao and Lily. Celine asks if it was Team Skull, but Lily explains that it was actually the Ultra Recon Squad, though not the members they'd previously met. As Hao and Lily officially explain what went down to everyone, the group simply comes out of it with more questions than answers. At the very least, it seems they're all safe, thanks to Acerola and Nebi. Hao asks Royal what he's doing there, and he explains that he was actually going to the Aether House to see Acerola. He'd heard about Team Skull's presence at her trial site, and wanted to make sure that everything was okay. Acerola confirms that Team Skull had been sneaking around the place, but the totem had scared them off, so her trial is open to any island challengers, without any issues. This immediately excites Ash, who wants to take the trial on right away. Acerola tells him that they can pass through Tapu Village to get to her trial at the abandoned Thrifty Mega Mart whenever they're ready. Hao says that he'll need to get his Vaporeon for some treatment at a Pokemon Center first, but he'll be fine if Ash wants to go ahead. But before Ash can even answer, the Masked Royal interrupts. Actually, Ash, I would love to have a battle with you first if you don't mind. Huh? A battle? Well, your Litten wanted to battle Incineroar back at the Battle Royale tournament on Akala, but didn't get that chance. So how about a quick battle now? Your Litten versus Incineroar? Ash smiles and agrees, only he says that the battle will be a bit different. Royal is perplexed until Ash sends out Torracat. Royal expresses surprise at Litten having evolved, but is thrilled, as he feels this will simply allow for an even more intense battle. Ash and the Masked Royal begin their battle. Ash starts by commanding Ember, but Incineroar extends a hand and takes the attack, seemingly taking no damage. This unnerves Torracat right off the bat. Ash orders Fire Fang, but Incineroar allows Torracat to bite his forearm, completely unfazed. He then spins into a Darkest Lariat, flinging Torracat away. A follow-up Cross Chop deals a major hit. Ash orders for Torracat to use Flame Charge, and the small cat is able to land a few hits and increase his speed. Ash calls for another Fire Fang, but a Throat Chop intercepts Torracat and sends him hurtling into the ground. Ash decides to change up his strategy and orders Scratch, but the attack barely phases Incineroar, who effortlessly strikes back with another devastating Cross Chop. Torracat is furious that he's barely doing anything to his opponent. He feels so tired already, meanwhile Incineroar looks perfectly fine. Torracat begins meowing angrily at Ash. Ash is stumped by what the cat wants, but he realizes that Torracat must want him to use his Z move. Ash inserts Firium Z onto his Z Crystal and calls for an Inferno Overdrive. Royal tells Incineroar to use Blast Burn to intercept. The attacks collide, and miraculously, they seem even. Celine, Lily, Hao, and Acerola are in awe that a normal attack from Incineroar can counter a Z move. Incineroar's attack eventually pushes through to land a big hit, though the Z move did at least soften the blow. Torracat stumbles but refuses to fall. He rushes in for one last Flame Charge without even waiting for Ash's command, but Incineroar counters with Darkest Lariat, and the collision of moves finally defeats Torracat. Ash rushes up to his injured Pokemon, asking if he's okay. The cat meows weakly and glares at Incineroar and the Masked Royal. Royal approaches Ash, telling him that Torracat fought well, but there were a few things he noticed. He notes that Torracat's moves are Scratch, Ember, Fire Fang, and Flame Charge. Good moves, but almost all of them are Fire-type, and only one is a long-ranged attack. He recommends teaching Torracat some long-ranged moves, so he doesn't have to always get in close for attacks. Plus, learning a move of a different type will give him more options in battle. It'll also allow him to use more types of Z moves. Ash thanks Royal for the advice and promises to work well with Torracat to become stronger. Ash comments that he should probably get Torracat to a Pokemon Center now, but out of nowhere, a citrus berry is flung over to him. Ash looks over to where the berry came from and is shocked by what he sees. It's a Pokemon that looks similar to the previous Island Guardians they'd seen before. Hey, Tapu Bulu, what's up? Acerola asks cheerfully. The Pokemon rolls its eyes at her and tosses some citrus berries at Lily and Hao's Pokemon as well. As the Pokemon munch on the berries, Acerola comments that Tapu Bulu must have been watching all the battles since their arrival and wanted to help them out. But she mentions that the Island Guardian rarely ever does anything like this, so they should feel honored. All of the kids graciously thank Tapu Bulu, who simply flies off without much as a word. Acerola mentions that it's probably going back to the Ruins of Abundance. This causes Lily to remember that Professor Kukui wanted her to visit the place for research. The quartet get their Pokemon healed at the Pokemon Center and spend the night. The next morning, Lily tells the others that she will be heading to the Ruins of Abundance to do some research, but she wishes Ash and Hal luck at their trial. Celine decides to join her, and they all plan to meet back up at the Pokemon Center by evening. With that, Lily and Celine use the ride pager to call a Charizard and Altaria to fly them to the ruins. Ash and Hal meanwhile head over to the trial site. Once they make it to the abandoned Thrifty Mega Mart, Acerola is outside, waiting for them. She tells Ash and Hal that this trial will be simple. Just go inside and use their Rotom Pokédex to take a few pictures of some Pokemon in the building. The boys agree and they head inside the store. The place is really creepy and lingering with ghost types, but Ash and Hal get almost all the pictures they need. Still, Pikachu can't shake the feeling that they're being followed. Eventually, they make it to a back room where they need to capture one more picture. However, the room is completely empty aside from some photographs on the walls. This confuses the kids and they wonder if maybe they're in the wrong location. However, Pikachu speaks up as he notices something in the corner. It's a small Pokemon that looks similar to a Pikachu and yet different. Ash tries to approach it while Hal snaps a picture. The picture flash seems to trigger something in the Pokemon and it quickly dashes out of the room. Ash and Hal make chase, but once they're outside the room, they're surprised to see two of the same Pokemon. Only one looks a bit different in terms of color. Hal assumes that this is just part of the trial and takes another picture with Rotom Dex. But this causes the Pokemon to become surrounded with a ghostly aura. They then grow into a massive size. From here, it's clear that these are the totem Pokemon. Rotom Dex identifies them as Mimikyu and mentions that they're ghost and fairy type Pokemon. Ash decides to challenge the one from the back room, while Hal goes against the second one. But of course, they can't begin without a bet between the two. Okay, Hal, what will the challenge be this time? How about... Before Hal can even say anything, a Shadow Ball is hurled in his direction. He angrily yells at the totem for interrupting him, but it simply fires off more attacks. Okay, how about we can only use one of our newest Z-moves to get the win? Hal blurts out, not really even paying attention to the words he's saying, in his desperate attempt to dodge attacks. But Ash doesn't seem to realize it, and is fine with the conditions. After all, this means he'll be using a new Z-move with Pikachu. Okay, works for me. Ash starts by sending out Torracat, while Hal sends in Dartrix. Hal starts out by commanding Peck. It dives in for the attack and hits the shiny Mimikyu head-on. Torracat does the same with a Flame Charge. But the Mimikyu appear to have taken seemingly no damage. Rotom Dex notes that Mimikyu have an ability called Disguise, which can allow them to avoid damage when taking the first hit in battle. This catches Ash and Hal off guard, especially when the Mimikyu hit back with a hard Shadow Claw each. This upsets Torracat and Dartrix, who get fired up. Hal commands Dartrix to go in for Peck. The bird flies into the air and dives down for the attack, but he surprises everyone as his entire body glows with a bright orange aura. He strikes the shiny Mimikyu for an amazingly hard hit, knocking the totem back. This shocks Ash and Hal, and Rotom Dex confirms that Dartrix used Brave Bird. Hal is beyond thrilled over the new move. Dartrix, however, doesn't have time to celebrate, as he shoots a Razor Leaf at what appears to be a blank wall. Hal asks his starter what's wrong, and out of the ghostly shadows, a Haunter and Gengar appear. Clearly the totem's ally Pokemon. Hal has never had a totem call two Pokemon at once. This will be his most difficult totem battle yet. Meanwhile, Torracat is hitting his Mimikyu opponent with Flame Charge after Flame Charge, greatly increasing his speed. This allows him to dodge several attacks from Mimikyu. The totem is clearly becoming frustrated. Ash calls for Fire Fang, but as Torracat runs over to execute it, he's intercepted by a Bayonet, who pushes him back with Screech. Torracat tries to push through, but he's hit out of nowhere by a Water Pulse from behind. The Water Pulse deals major damage and leaves Torracat confused. Ash notices a Jellicent appear from the air. Looks like he'll also be battling 3 Pokemon at once. But this matchup is not in his favor, so he recalls Torracat for Tiny. Hal tries to have Dartrix focus on Mimikyu, but he continues getting distracted by Haunter and Gengar, launching sharp Razor Leaf attacks at them, which they dodge effortlessly. This allows Shiny Totem Mimikyu to pummel him with Play Rough. Dartrix strikes back with a Brave Bird, but Mimikyu intercepts with Shadow Claw. Hal doesn't want to risk his Pokemon taking more damage, so he switches Dartrix with Crystal. He thinks back to the triple battle he and Lily had, and notices the teamwork from the 3 opponents. He'll need to find a way to break their synergy. Hal orders a Boomerang right away, which the Ghost types dodge initially, but as the bone comes back around, it manages to deal a hard hit to Gengar. Gengar retaliates with a Shadow Punch, which Crystal tries to intercept with Bone Club, but Mimikyu then strikes with a hard Shadow Claw, knocking Crystal down. She's able to get back to her feet, but is clearly heavily injured. Hal tells Crystal to use Boomerang again, but this time all opponents dodge. But the first pass was just a diversion, allowing Crystal to hit Haunter with Iron Head. As Gengar tries to retaliate, it takes another hard hit from the second Boomerang. Hao is starting to get the upper hand. Ash can see Hao's strategy and tries something similar with Tiny. He has the Pokemon use Fling and attempt to use his Thrown Berry to distract his opponents, but they don't fall for the trap. Instead, Bayonet hits a Will-O-Wisp, weakening Tiny's attack power, while Jellicent uses Nightshade to deal a hard hit. Ash realizes that this was a mistake and tries to recall Tiny, but the Passimian does not want to give up and refuses to leave the battle. Ash chooses to respect his Pokemon's wishes. He tells Tiny to go in for Smackdown, but Jellicent grabs Tiny with Psychic, allowing Bayonet to pelt him with Shadow Balls. As Ash begs for Tiny to break free, Totem Mimikyu finishes him off with Play Rough. Ash returns Tiny and thanks him for his help in the battle. He knows he needs to get serious now, and he sends out Pikachu. Crystal has managed to deal several hard hits to Gengar and Haunter, and even got in an Iron Head on Shiny Mimikyu. Shiny Totem Mimikyu seems fed up with the Keybone's antics and orders her subordinates to take her down. Haunter and Gengar surround Crystal, and they charge forward with a Sucker Punch and Shadow Punch. But Hao has Crystal jump out of the way of their attacks at the last second, causing the ghosts to hit each other. This has the allies and their totem stunned, and Hao takes this opportunity to land a big hit. He places his Stellium Z on his Z-Ring and strikes the pose Moraine taught him. He orders Corkscrew Crash. Before Haunter and Gengar can even register what's happening, Crystal barrels through them with her powerful attack and slams into Mimikyu for a major hit. As Crystal lands, Haunter and Gengar are fainted, while Mimikyu is stumbling. Hao praises the little Cubone for her success in taking down both ally Pokemon. Crystal cheers, but the celebration does not last long, as Shiny Totem Mimikyu hits her with Shadow Ball from behind. Crystal falls to the ground, unable to battle, but she's done an incredible job getting Hao the advantage in the battle. Meanwhile, Celine and Lily have landed at the Ruins of Abundance. The girls immediately get to exploring the area in search of Tapu Bulu. Unfortunately, the Pokemon doesn't seem to be around. This disappoints Lily, as she really wanted to see if the Island Guardian knew anything about Nebby. The girls figure that at this point, they may as well leave. However, they're stopped when Celine notices something in the sky. Lily looks up, and it's that thing again. An Ultra Wormhole, Celine says, remembering what Lucine had told them at the Aether Foundation. Lily begins to freak out, and this only intensifies as an entity exits the portal. The creature is a massive, round beast, with hands exiting its humongous mouth. Celine and Lily are beyond terrified at the specimen in front of them, with Lily shrieking in terror. It's huge and horrifying, and roars ferociously at them. That must be an Ultra Beast, Celine says. The girls are beyond confused as to why this beast has made its appearance so randomly, but they don't have much time to think about it, as the beast sends a dark pulse their way. The girls jump out of the way quickly enough to avoid being hit. It's clear to Celine that they're going to have to fight back. But Lily is petrified and cowers on the ground, unwilling to move. So Celine has no choice but to grab Lily's Pokeballs from her bag and send her all the girls' Pokemon, along with her own, to take on this creature. Celine calls out attack after attack from all of the Pokemon, but the Ultra Beast in front of them seems barely phased. It fires off a Dragon Pulse, which Celine has Spike intercept with Flamethrower. Meanwhile, Snowy uses Blizzard, while Sandy hits Ice Ball. The Ultra Beast seems to be noticeably hurt by the ice attacks, and with the Dragon Pulse just being launched, Celine speculates that it's Dragon type. The creature then uses Snarl, which manages to disorient all of Lily and Celine's Pokemon. Sylvia uses her speed to land some hard hits with Gyro Ball. The monster attempts to grab her with one of its arms, but she uses Spiky Shield to send it flinching backward. Peach fires off a Solar Beam, but it barely makes a scratch on the Ultra Beast. The creature seems to become riled up as it uses Draco Meteor. Numerous powerful meteors rain down from the sky, knocking out a lot of Lily and Celine's Pokemon at once. Some manage to dodge though, Snowy in particular remembering the move from her gym battle. But Spike falls onto his back, causing an explosion which hits his own teammates, leaving him immobile. Things are not looking good. The beast still seems to be raring for the fight, and with Celine and Lily losing so many Pokemon in a single move, it's only become more difficult. The Ultra Beast fires another Dragon Pulse at Spike, who is in no position to dodge. Celine rushes over in a panic to save her Pokemon. This actually causes Lily to turn her attention to the battle. She calls out Celine's name in horror, but out of nowhere, something flies in to take the attack. A massive explosion rings out, and once it's cleared, it's revealed to be Tapu Bulu. Lily and Celine are surprised, but also thankful to see the Island Guardian. It looks back at them with a neutral expression, then roars at the creature in front of it. The Ultra Beast roars back and uses another Snarl. Tapu Bulu resists the attack though, and hits back with a Wood Hammer. Celine looks over at Tapu Bulu and notices that it seems to be shivering slightly. She wonders why that is, but before she can question the Guardian, it uses Dazzling Gleam. This deals a noticeably huge blow to the beast as it falls backward. By now, Lily decides to stand up and goes over to her Pokemon. With Tapu Bulu now here, she feels a bit more confident, and she knows she can't let Celine continue to go through this without help. So she orders Cleffy to use Moonblast. The attack lands, but the Ultra Beast retaliates with Snarl. Tapu Bulu uses Horn Leech, and the Island Guardian is strong enough to slightly push back the enormous beast. But the monster digs its claws into the ground to keep its footing. It then uses a close-range Dark Pulse, hitting Tapu Bulu to the ground. Celine analyzes the situation and feels that a huge combined attack might be better for the situation and considers a Z move. But which should she use? While she's pondering and Tapu Bulu is halted, the beast fires a powerful Dragon Pulse towards Spike. He's far too slow to dodge, and he does the only thing he can, intercept with a Flamethrower. He tries to hold the attack back, but the Ultra Beast is overpowering him. Sandy and Snowy jump in front, using Blizzard and Icicle Spear in an attempt to push the attack back, but it's not working. The attack is getting closer to the Pokemon, and the girls aren't sure what to do. But out of nowhere, Tapu Bulu flies into the air and flings something at Snowy and Sandy. As the item hits them, a bright blue light consumes their bodies. The Dragon Pulse finally overtakes the counterattack and hits the Pokemon dead on. But once the light dies down, Snowy emerges as a Ninetales, and she and the others seem unharmed. Lily and Celine are stunned by this, but barely have time to react. Tapu Bulu calls out to the girls, gesturing at their Pokemon and the Ultra Beast. It seems it wants to do a joint attack. The girls look to each other and nod. Celine pulls out the Z Crystal Gladion had recently given her and inserts it into her Z-Ring. Lily orders a Moonblast from Cleffy, Blizzard from Snowy, and an Icicle Spear from Sandy. Celine and Spike perform the pose for Inferno Overdrive and execute the powerful attack. Tapu Bulu adds in a Dazzling Gleam. The massive combo attack slams into the Ultra Beast, and this blasts it backward into the ground. Celine and Lily are overjoyed, and the Pokemon cheer in glee. But it's only for a few moments, as the creature manages to stumble back to its feet. The girls are stunned at the Pokemon's endurance and wonder when this will end. But seconds after the Pokemon stands up, another Ultra Wormhole opens in the sky, directly above them. The beast is then pulled back up into the portal, vanishing in the air. It seems these Ultra Beasts flee once they've taken enough of a beating, Celine thinks, as she remembers the behavior of the Ultra Beast at Aether Paradise. Regardless, everyone is thrilled that the monster is finally gone. The girls rush over to Tapu Bulu, thanking it for saving them. Lily is especially overjoyed by Snowy's evolution. With everything calmed down, she realizes that Alolan Vulpix can only evolve with an Ice Stone. That must have been the item Tapu Bulu threw. But why did it just happen to have this stone with it? She wonders. Celine recalls how Tapu Bulu was shivering when it first appeared. It must have just come from somewhere cold, and maybe that's where the Ice Stone came from. None of the girls' questions are answered, as the Island Guardian gives the girls a nonchalant look and flies over to a rock to rest on. At this point, the girls think Tapu Bulu has the right idea. A little bit of rest sounds great about now. The girls return their Pokemon and call their ride Pokemon from the ride pager. As they take to the skies on Charizard and Altaria, they bid a final farewell and thanks to Ula'ula's Island Guardian. Back at the Mega Mart, Pikachu is struggling against the trickery of Bayonet and Jellicent, along with Mimikyu's powerful attacks. A Leech Life from Mimikyu has Pikachu reeling in pain, while Bayonet and Jellicent hit numerous Shadow Ball attacks. Pikachu tries to hit off Thunderbolts in all directions, but fails to land a single one. Ash realizes that he needs to halt his opponent's movements, and then realizes that he has the perfect strategy to do so. He has Pikachu use Thunderbolts in the air to lure Bayonet and Jellicent to the center of the room. Once they're side by side, he commands an Electro Web to hold them in place. From there, Ash immediately pulls out his Electrium Z. He's been wanting to use an Electric-type Z move for ages, and he's thrilled to be able to do so now. He and Pikachu strike the pose for Gigavolt Havoc, which Sophocles had taught them. A massive blast of electricity is sent by Pikachu with a punch. The attack slams into the trapped ally Pokemon, knocking them out. Unfortunately, Tona Mimikyu escapes all the damages as she used a last-minute Protect, but the match is still now in Ash's favor. He commands an Iron Tail, which Pikachu manages to land, but it seems Mimikyu only allowed Pikachu to get in close so he could hit with a direct Shadow Claw. The move lands a critical hit, taking Pikachu out of the battle. Hal meanwhile sends Vaporeon out to use a barrage of Shadow Ball attacks to the shiny Tona Mimikyu. Some of the attacks do manage to land for big damage, but the Tona intercepts with Shadow Balls of its own. A Water Pulse is launched, but Shadow Claw hits through the wave for a major hit. Totem Shiny Mimikyu jumps up for a Play Rough, but Hal has Vaporeon dodge at the last second and use a close-range Aqua Tail. Mimikyu stumbles and a follow-up water pulse to the face has the shiny Mimikyu stunned. It seems to have become confused. In its confusion, it sends out Shadow Claws in desperate attempts to hit Vaporeon. The aquatic feline tries to dodge, but the erratic swipes are making it difficult, and she takes a hard hit onto a shelf. Mimikyu starts to calm down, so Hao has Vaporeon jump up into the air and use Shadow Ball. Vaporeon then smacks the Shadow Ball with an Aqua Tail, dealing the final finishing blow to the shiny Totem Mimikyu. On Ash's end, Meteor enters the battle. Totem Mimikyu hits several attacks: Leech Life, Shadow Claw, and Play Rough. All land, but Meteor's shell protects her from most of the damage. She uses Power Gem, but Mimikyu withstands it. A Shadow Claw slices apart Meteor's shell, but this doesn't bother Ash at all. In fact, he orders Meteor to continue going in for close-range attacks, and Mimikyu retaliates with more Shadow Claws, further damaging the shell. Once Mimikyu begins to show exhaustion, Ash orders a Shell Smash to completely break the remainder of the shell and power up Meteor. From here, its Shields Down ability activates. Mimikyu goes in for a Play Rough, but Meteor dodges with a speed rivaling Pikachu and hits several acrobatics attacks. The Totem tries another Leech Life, but Meteor spins into a dodge and hits with acrobatics once more. The Totem tries to hit more attacks, but to no avail. Meteor is simply too fast now. The little Meteor giggles in glee as it avoids every single hit from Mimikyu. Mimikyu uses Protect against an incoming Power Gem, but Ash simply orders Meteor to keep attacking until the Protect breaks. Eventually it does, and Ash orders Acrobatics. Mimikyu attempts a Shadow Claw, but Meteor spins straight through it and strikes the Totem in the head to finish it off. Ash and Hao celebrate their victories with a high five, and praise each other for the battle tactics used. Upon completing their trials, Ash and Hao exit the Mega Mart. Acerola meets them at the entrance and congratulates them for their victories. She hands the two of them Ghost EMZ crystals, and shows them the pose for the Ghost-type Z move, Never Ending Nightmare. Ash and Hao become eager to try out the moves in the future. Since it's getting dark out, the boys decide to return to the Pokemon Center to meet back up with Celine and Lily, as they promised. As the two walk off, Acerola feels a presence behind her. "Oh, Mimikins, I've been looking all over for you. Where have you been?" "Well, you sure look like you had an exciting day." Ash and Hao make it back to the Pokemon Center, where Celine and Lily are already waiting for them. As Ash and Hao drop off their Pokemon for healing, they ask Lily and Celine if they had any luck at the Ruins of Abundance. What follows is an intense play-by-play of their day's events, leaving Ash, Hao, and Rotomdex speechless. Rotomdex is particularly mad over the fact that he wasn't there to take any pictures. Ash wonders if they should reach out to the Aether Foundation to inform them of what happened. After all, Lucine was very interested in the creatures of the Ultra Wormhole. But Lily adamantly refuses, before anyone can even give an opinion. The others ask why, and she nervously says that it's best that they not bother that nice Lucine lady while she's in the middle of her research. She sounds like a busy person. Besides, like Rotom says, they don't even have any pictures, so who knows if she'd even believe them. The others actually agree that she makes a good point. Lily adds that the only thing Ash and Hao should be worrying about now are the Grand Trials. And of course, with a Grand Trial about to take place, Team Skull may rear their ugly heads, and Celine should be prepared for that. This gets Lily's friends fully on her side, and they agree not to worry about the Ultra Beast for now. Lily sighs. She hates having to do this to her friends, but it's for the best. The next morning, the kids learn from Acerola that Nanu is currently in his home on Route 17, so they can use their ride pages to quickly head over. When they arrive, Nanu is simply relaxing in his house full of mini Meowth. Ash and Hao show them their newest Z crystals as proof of winning their Ula'ula trials and request their grand trial battles. Nanu seems completely uninterested, but agrees to take them on. He doesn't want to have the trial here though, because they're too close to Team Skull's hideout, and he doesn't want any interruptions. Instead, he says they can go over to Malie Garden for their battle. As they prepare to leave, a group of trainers burst through the door in tears. Nanu instantly recognizes them as previous island challengers he faced. Lily asks them what's wrong, and they explain that their Darkinium Z crystals were stolen by Team Skull thugs. The challengers tried to pursue them, but they ran into Po Town and got ambushed. This infuriates Celine, and she naturally wants to go after them, but she remembers that Gladion said Guzma tends to hang around Po Town since it houses Team Skull's base. She also remembers her brutal loss to him, and becomes fearful at the mere thought of battling him again, even with the training she had from Gladion. Nanu is quite disinterested in the whole thing, and simply states that he doesn't have time to deal with the nuisance that is Team Skull right now. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a handful of Darkinium Z crystals and hands them to the island challengers, telling them to keep them safe, because he will not be this generous next time. The kids thank him and let him know that they'll be leaving the island at once for safety. Team Skull have too much of a presence on Ula'ula Island. Nanu says that he'll deal with Team Skull after the Grand Trial. The group fly over with their ride pager Pokemon, but it takes a few hours. As it's close to nighttime, Nanu agrees to give Ash and Hao the grand trials in the morning, and they accept. That night, the kids stay at a Pokemon Center. As the boys are sleeping, the girls are still awake. Celine just can't sleep, knowing what Team Skull had done, and how those poor trainers could have very well lost their Z crystals forever had Nanu not been so kind. Lily tells Celine that she should relax. After all, Nanu did give them new Z crystals without even making them rebattle him for them. But Celine is still upset. She can't stand the idea that Team Skull will keep doing this. Besides, what about the kids who won't be so lucky to get new Z crystals handed to them? She needs to put a stop to this. Lily warns her not to try to go after them on her own, and Celine tells her that she knows what she must do. The next morning, Ash and Hao wake up bright and early for their grandchild. However, they're shocked when Celine is gone. She left a note saying that she wanted to do some training on her own, and she'll be back before nighttime. Ash and Hao thus decide to just head to Malie Garden for their battle, but Lily is nervous. Considering the events of the day before and her discussion with Celine the previous night, she's terrified over where she may have gone. That said, she doesn't want to pull Ash and Hao away from their grand trial, so Lily tells the boys that she actually has some shopping to do, and she'll see them later. She asks for Rotondex to join her so she can take some pictures, and he agrees to join her. Ash and Hao bid the duo farewell and head to the garden. Once she's alone, Lily explains the truth of the situation to Rotondex and asks him to direct her to Po Town. The Pokédex is upset over the way Lily lied to Ash and Hao, but agrees to help her out. Lily calls upon a ride Tauros and immediately makes her way to Po Town. There, she runs into a group of Team Skull Grunts who block her path. They throw out a bunch of Pokemon to slow her down, but Lily becomes uncharacteristically angry. She doesn't have time to waste right now. Celine could be in danger. She demands for Team Skull to leave, but they refuse and command their Pokemon to attack. The Tauros rears up in shock, causing Lily to fall over. As the Team Skull Grunts laugh at her, they tell her she may as well leave. With this, Lily has had it. She reaches into her bag and pulls out an Ultra Ball. I didn't want to have to do this, but I don't have any other choice. Meanwhile, Ash and Hao have reached Malie Garden, where Nanu is waiting for them. Ash is really hyped for the battle, whereas Hao is curious what the battle format will be. After all, Olivia's grand trial was a double battle. Nanu surprises the boys by mentioning that he actually ran into Ryuki that morning, who mentioned to him that he faced the two of them along with Lily in a triple tag battle. He also knows that he spoke to Sophocles about their trial, and he informed him that the duo usually create self-imposed challenges to test each other. Ash and Hao confirm this and wonder what Nanu was thinking. The Kahuna then makes a proposition to them. He'll take them on in a triple battle, and if they win, they get their Z crystals and their island stamps. But if they can win without any of their Pokemon fainting, he'll also give them a Z power ring. This excites the boys, especially Ash, since he'd wanted to get a Z power ring ever since Olivia gave him Lycanium Z. But Hao is nervous, since he still doesn't have that much experience with triple battles. Plus, their last one was a tag battle, and he only had to worry about his one Pokemon. Even when battling the 3 Pokemon at the abandoned Thrifty Mega Mart, he only had his one to focus on. This time, he'd have to command 3 at once, something he'd never done before. No worries, he'll just let Ash battle first, so he can see Nanu's battling style, so he offers for Ash to go first. But Nanu doesn't even let Ash speak before he states that that won't be necessary. The boys are confused until Nanu tosses 6 Dusk Balls into the air. Onto the ground fall an Alolan Persian, a Crocodile, Alolan Muck, Absol, Sableye, and Honchkrow. Nanu then shocks the two by stating that he'll be battling them both at once. He'll command 6 Pokemon at a time. Ash and Hao are floored. They'd never even heard of anyone doing anything like this. But Nanu states that if anything, they have it easy. After all, they only need to worry about 3 Pokemon, while he'll need to manage 6. So they should win easily, right? Ash is up for the challenge, but Hao is still nervous. He doesn't even know which Pokemon he should pick. Nanu tells Ash that he'll be battling his Persian, Crocodile, and Muck, while Hao will take on Absol, Sableye, and Honchkrow. He then gives them a few moments to choose their Pokemon. Ash decides to send out his whole team so he can look over his options, and Hao does the same. For Ash, one choice is easy, Tiny. He has the type advantage along with great speed, attack power, and endurance. Next, he decides to use Torracat. He really wants to work more with the Pokemon after his recent battle against the Masked Royal. He's stumped on his last choice though. General O begins growling and jumping around in front of Ash. She clearly wants to be chosen. Ash is unsure though, since even though she participated in the last triple battle, the small Pokemon still doesn't have too much experience. But Lycanroc vouches for her young friend and urges for Ash to use the Tiny Dragon. Ash decides to go for it and chooses Jangmo-O as his final Pokemon. Meanwhile, Hao is struggling. He's only officially chosen Crit Brawler due to his type advantage, but he's still not too sure about the others. He'd like to use Raichu to cover the flying type Honchkrow, but worries about her weakness to dark types. Raichu seems eager to battle though, so Hao decides to go ahead and use her. And last he goes with Komala, since the small Pokemon has proven his strength many times before. With their lineups chosen, Ash and Hao get ready for the battle. Their other Pokemon remain outside their Pokeballs to cheer on their comrades though. Nanu finally gives off a small smile. He thinks this will surely be an interesting battle. Celine is standing in front of the entrance to Po Town. It's raining, but she's grateful that she didn't have to deal with Team Skull grunts on the way. Still, she's nervous about actually going inside, but she knows that she must. She can't let Team Skull believe that they can keep doing this. She needs to send a message to them that this is unacceptable. As she prepares to enter the town, she hears a voice call out to her. It's Lily, and Rotom-Dex is with her. She asks them what they're doing, and Lily says that she couldn't let Celine go up against Team Skull alone. She tells Celine how horribly she felt when she was too scared to help out against that Ultra Beast back at the Ruins of Abundance. If not for Tapu Bulu, Celine could have been seriously hurt, and it would have been Lily's fault for not being strong enough to fight by her side. And she refuses to let the same thing happen again. Celine thanks Lily for looking out for her, but reveals that her goal wasn't actually to battle Guzma, which surprises Lily. Team Skull is known for stealing Z-Crystals and Island Ambulance, so Celine's mission was to retrieve all the stolen items to give to Nanu and the other Kahunas, in the hopes that they could return them to the island challengers. Lily is relieved to hear this, but still nervous, as these items will surely be guarded, most likely by Guzma. But Celine feels more confident. She may not have been able to face Guzma alone, but now, after having been trained by Gladion, and with Lily's help, surely they can do it together. So with that, the girls make their way inside. And yes, this episode would be called Showdown in Po Town. Lily and Celine enter the town and are horrified by the look of the place. Everything has been vandalized and it looks terrible. The girls do see some Team Skull members lurking around and decide to sneak their way around them. At one point they are almost spotted, but Nebby teleports them farther in town to avoid detection. Eventually, they reach a huge, shady-looking house at the back of the town. Lily and Celine manage to enter the home without being seen. Once they get inside, however, they have no clue what their next move should be. The house looks huge, and there's no telling where the stolen objects may be. At this point, all they can do is search around. The girls wander the home and are surprised by how quiet it is. They were sure it would be crawling with Team Skull members, but there's no one around. It's almost unnerving, but the girls continue regardless. Eventually, they reach a room at the end of a lone hallway. Upon pushing the door open, the girls are stunned to see a pile of Z-Crystals, Island Amulets, and even Grand Trial stamp cards. Celine can't believe her eyes and rushes into the room. But only a few steps in, and she's hit by a string shot, completely restricting her movements. Another string shot is aimed at Lily, but Moon bursts out of her bag and shoots the attack down with Venoshock. Suddenly, a horde of Team Skull grunts jump out of the shadows, along with Plumeria and a bunch of Pokemon. You dummies! You're supposed to tie them both up, you know. Hey, we tried. How are we supposed to know the little Ultra Beast would save her? Whatever. At least we got you here. I knew you brats would take the bait. What are you talking about? All the stuff in that pile is fake, but thanks for bringing the Ultra Beast right to us. Wait, what? Lily and Celine are confused now. Since when does Team Skull care about Ultra Beasts? There's not much time to think about that right now, though. Lily sends out Sandy to cut Celine out of the string shot with Metal Claw, much to Plumeria's dismay. Celine sends out Peach, Sylvie, and Meadow to battle with, while Lily sends out Cleffy and Snowy to join Sandy and Moon. The girls get into an all-out brawl, where as usual, they manage to take out most of the Team Skull Pokemon with ease, but with Plumeria's Pokemon helping them out, they manage to do a decent amount of damage to Lily and Celine's teams. Peach is in the middle of battling some Alolan Rattata and Yungoos, and they're giving her a hard time. But Celine manages to use the skill she learned from Gladion to get the advantage. Rapid Spin allows Peach to quickly dodge attacks in the air, and then hit hard in retaliation. She manages to bounce from enemy to enemy with Rapid Spin, knocking them down or distracting them enough for another Pokemon to land a stronger hit. After taking a few Pokemon down, Peach stuns everyone as she begins glowing brightly and evolves into Steenie. Now evolved, Peach can put up an even better fight against the enemy Pokemon. This greatly annoys the grunts, and they try to deal more hits to Celine and Lily's Pokemon, with Plumeria yelling that they need to get the Ultra Beast. And Ariados fires Poison Sting at Celine, Lily, and their Pokemon from the ceiling, but a dual Gyro Ball from Sandy and Sylvia knock the spider out. Lily then commands Moon to use Spell Stinger on Plumeria's Salazzle, but the lizard blasts it back with Flamethrower. The battle is going more in Celine and Lily's favor, much to the rage of Plumeria and the grunts. Eventually, Moon and Peach have defeated all of the grunts' weak Pokemon, meaning the only one left to worry about is Plumeria. Snowy's Blizzard takes down the admin's Crobat, and Sandy defeats her Gumshoes. Meanwhile, on Celine's end, Meadow and Sylvia are working in tandem to defeat Salazzle. Sylvia struggles due to her type disadvantage, but a Zingzap still does a big hit. Plumeria is feeling backed into a corner, and by now, her and her subordinates are frustrated with the entire situation. Come on, big sis. Just use that thing the boss gave us. Yeah, it'll wipe these girls out easily. Celine demands to know what they're talking about, and Plumeria decides that, since they're so curious, she may as well go ahead and show them. She pulls out a small black box. The girls are confused for a moment, until Celine quickly realizes what the object is. It's the same item Faba and Lucine used back at Aether Paradise. The object which summoned that Ultra Beast. The girl immediately panics and tells Lily to look out, but within seconds the box begins to glow. It shoots a beam into the air, blasting a hole into the ceiling and through the roof. An ultra wormhole begins to form, and the girls are terrified. From the wormhole, a giant, multi-legged beast appears. Rotomdex immediately takes a picture of it. The creature is completely red in color, and has huge muscles and a stinger on its face. The monster roars ferociously at Lily and Celine. Lily is petrified, but knows that she can't let fear overtake her. She needs to be strong. Where did you guys even get that? Celine demands. Lucine and Faba were the only ones she ever saw with such a device, so how could Team Skull have gotten their hands on it? Plumeria responds that it was a gift from the boss, to handle the likes of them. So Guzma gave it to you? Celine naturally assumes that Guzma must have stolen the device from Aether Island. But why? What does this have to do with the island challenge? Maybe the beast is simply meant to cause destruction to the island trial sites. The time to ponder on that will have to come later, as the beast rushes forward with what appears to be a Mega Punch. Clefty tries to use a Moonblast to stop the beast, but it punches straight through it and lands a hit on the small Clefairy. Lily rushes to catch her Pokemon, and the impact causes her to hit the wall. Celine is, of course, horrified by the Ultra Beast's power, and knows she needs a strong attacker right now, so she sends out Spike and commands Flamethrower. The beast does seem to take a big hit, but it recovers and quickly goes in for Focus Punch. Celine has Spike turn around and use Shell Trap. As the punch makes contact with Spike's back, a huge fiery blast blows the Pokemon away, and appears to do a big hit. Rotomdex deduces that the creature might be weak to fire-type attacks. But that last attack also seemed to have the effect of infuriating the Ultra Beast. It rushes forward to land a Dynamic Punch, knocking down the Turtonator. It then uses Superpower, grabbing Spike effortlessly and tossing him through the wall and all the way down the hall. The Pokemon is unconscious. Lily and Celine are stunned at how quickly Spike, one of the strongest Pokemon Celine has, was taken down. Celine rushes over to her Pokemon. Meanwhile, Lily is still cradling the injured Cleffy in the corner. Plumeria and the Grunts cheer with glee over how the Ultra Beast defeated Turtonator. The admin then orders it to finish off the other Pokemon, starting with Lily's Clefairy. Celine and Lily's remaining Pokemon rush in to jump in front of Lily, but the girl is aware that there's nothing they can do. At this point, she only has one option. She pulls out that Ultra Ball once again. You're the only hope we have. Back in Malie Garden, Ash and Hal begin their battle against Nanu. Since it's still pretty early, no one is around, which Nanu appreciates, as he'd find an audience a bit distracting. For his challengers, that is. Ash has chosen to use Tiny, Torracat, and Jangmo against Persian, Crocodile, and Muk, while Hal is using Komala, Crabrawler, and Raichu against Absol, Sableye, and Honchkrow. Ash becomes serious. After all, a Z Power Ring is on the line. Meanwhile, Hal simply wants to get through with his stamp. He wants to honor his grandfather's name in front of Nanu. If he doesn't get the Z Power Ring, so be it. Ash starts by commanding Low Sweep from Tiny, Brick Break from Jangmo, and Fire Fang from Torracat. Tiny and Torracat are fast enough to land their attacks on Persian and Muk, but Crocodile easily traps Jangmo with Sand Tomb before she can even reach him. Ash has Tiny dive into the Sand Tomb and grab Jangmo, almost as if he was retrieving a sports ball. Once saved, Jangmo tries her attack again, and it actually lands. But Nanu smirks as he wanted this, and Crocodile smacks the tiny dragon back with counter. Lycanroc howls in concern from the sidelines, as she knows how dangerous this attack could become. But Ash calms her, telling her that Jangmo can get through this. Ash has Torracat use Flame Charge to get the speed advantage, and he strikes Persian a few times, but the larger cat seems barely phased. Nanu informs Ash that his Persian has fur coat, so physical attacks won't do as much damage. A close-range Power Gem then does a huge hit to Torracat. Ash orders Tiny to use Fling, but Muk intercepts the attack with his sludgy body, keeping a firm grasp on the berry. This infuriates Tiny, and he rushes forward to get his fruit back, but this time Crocodile traps him with a Sand Tomb. On Hausen, Absol starts with a Night Slash, but Crabrawler intercepts it with Power Up Punch. Hao is pleased to have a Pokemon with a big type advantage, but Nanu seems unconcerned. Hao soon sees why, as Nanu smirks and commands a close-range Psycho Cut, which deals a huge blow to Crabrawler. Hao is now unnerved by the fact that Absol has a move to counter Crabrawler, and he isn't the only one, as Honchkrow swoops in for an aerial ace against the crab. Hao panics, but Raichu quickly flies in to block his attack with Shockwave, dealing a hard hit to the bird. Hao praises Raichu for her teamwork, but Nanu scolds him for not making that call himself. Hao doesn't see what the issue is, though. So long as his Pokemon help their teammate, why does it matter if his Pokemon act on their own or not? He remembers when Dartrix did the same thing in the unofficial gym battle, and things turned out fine. But as Hao is lost in his thoughts, Sableye lands a Shadow Sneak, surprising Hao. Nanu tells Hao that this is why he needs to remain alert at all times. His Pokemon can't monitor everything, but their trainer should. Hao orders Komala to use Acrobatics on Sableye, but the Pokemon dodges. Komala tries again, but Sableye keeps dodging. Absol then rushes in and uses Night Slash, striking Komala hard. Nanu tells Hao that he should have been able to have another one of his Pokemon block that. Hao becomes frustrated in himself. He's still not used to commanding so many Pokemon at once. On the sidelines, Hao's other Pokemon become concerned, seeing their trainer struggle. Nanu tells Hao that this is why he wanted to battle both trainers together. He didn't want him to be able to rely on seeing Ash's battle first, the way he did with Hala, and this further frustrates Hao. But on that note, Ash is struggling as well, with Tiny being stuck in a sand tomb and without his main weapon, while Torracat and Jangmo are struggling to do big damage. Ash orders Jangmo to use Dragon Breath against Persian, but he dodges and uses Night Slash. But Jangmo tries to ignore the pain and hit a Dual Chop. The move lands, but Persian doesn't seem bothered, thanks to her ability. Torracat is at least much faster thanks to his early use of Flame Charge, and he manages to rush up to Muk for a hard Fire Fang. The move causes Muk to flinch, and with this, Torracat smacks Tiny's berry away from the living pile of sludge. Seeing this invigorates Tiny, and he uses all of his strength to break free from the sand tomb and get his weapon back. Nanu praises Ash on his Pokemon strength, but says that it won't be enough. He has Crocodile go in for Crunch on the Passimian, but Ash has Tiny use Close Combat on the opponent before he can land his attack. Crocodile flies backward and slams it to the ground. Persian rushes in to use Night Slash, but Torracat counters with Scratch. Meanwhile, Jangmo fires Dragon Breath at Muk. Muk resisted, however, and fires Sludge Bomb. But Jangmo uses her bulletproof ability to block the attack, much to Nanu's surprise. Nanu smirks. Ash seems to be a worthy opponent. Hao, on the other hand, he's not faring well. Absol, Sableye, and Honchkrow are overpowering his Pokemon. Sableye fires off a bunch of Shadow Ball attacks at Raichu, and she flies around to avoid the hits. Unfortunately, one strike managed to hit her, and Absol uses this chance to hit a Sucker Punch to deal a major hit to Raichu. Hao becomes incredibly concerned. He knows Raichu will not be able to take too many Ghost and Dark-type attacks. He didn't want to have to use his Z-move so quickly, but he feels like he has no choice. That said, he's not sure which to use. All-out pummeling makes the most sense, but Sableye is completely immune to it, so would that make it a waste? Nanu tells Honchkrow to use Dark Pulse while Hao is in deep thought. But Crabrawler and Raichu intercept with Bubble Beam and Shockwave, dealing a major hit to Honchkrow. This causes Hao to snap out of his thoughts and put a Z-Crystal into his Z-Ring. He and Raichu strike the pose for Gigavolt Havoc, and Raichu fires off the move. Nanu's Pokemon prepare to dodge the move, but he tells them not to bother. He strikes his own pose, and has Absol use Black Hole Eclipse to completely absorb the attack. Hao is utterly distraught that it's looking like his Z-move was wasted. His Pokemon can sense his distress, so while the Z-moves are still colliding, Crabrawler rushes in to attack Absol while he's preoccupied. Honchkrow and Sableye move in to stop him, but Komala tosses his log at Sableye to knock him back, and then leaps up to hit Honchkrow with Brick Break. This allows Crabrawler to use a strong power punch on Absol, dealing major damage. The Z-move collision finishes off with a huge explosion, and with all the Pokemon stunned, Hao orders Raichu to use Shockwave. Raichu puts all of her energy into launching this attack, and the Shockwave turns into Thunder. Thunder lands a huge hit on the opponents, and Honchkrow finally falls in defeat. Nanu is a bit surprised by this, and does compliment Hao on his quick thinking after the Z-move collision, but he still says that the boy's skills are lacking, as his Pokemon continue to act on their own, without his guidance. Hao asks why this is such a big deal. After all, Nanu's Pokemon have made moves on their own, as he's had to divide his attention between 2 battles. My Pokemon can make moves on their own, because they're well trained enough to know what I would have commanded them to do. Are your Pokemon doing that for the same reason? Or is it simply because you aren't quick enough to react to the battle properly? Hao is growing more upset, but tries not to let Nanu's words faze him. Besides, he got a knockout, even before Ash did. As long as he wins, it doesn't matter how he battles. On Ash's side of the field, his Pokemon are trying to gain some sort of upper hand. Torracat and Persian are duking it out with Scratch and Night Slash, but Persian seems to have the edge. Nanu says that he's done playing games, and orders Persian to finish Torracat off. Persian leaps back to use Power Gem, but before the attack can land, Torracat's body ignites into flames. He then strikes Persian once again, but this time his claws are surrounded by fire, and he deals a huge hit to Persian, causing her to fly backward. Ash wonders if this was a new move, and Nanu confirms that it was. Revenge. Ash is thrilled that Torracat learned a new move, especially since it's what Masked World encouraged him to do recently. Nanu doesn't let this new move distract him, and he orders Muk to use Dark Pulse and Crocodile to use Crunch, both on Jangmo-O. Jangmo-O tries to intercept Dark Pulse with Dragon Breath, but it fails and she's flung backward. Lycanroc calls out to her in concern, and the tiny dragon tries to get back to her feet. Crocodile goes in for Crunch, but Tiny gets in front of Jangmo-O and hits Low Sweep to knock Crocodile back. Nanu praises Ash for his skilled battling, and figures that it's time to get serious. He poses with Persian and commands Black Hole Eclipse. Gonna use some anime logic here, and argue that Nanu can use 2 Z moves since these are technically 2 separate battles. In my opinion. A massive black hole opens up and attempts to pull Ash's Pokemon in. Tiny, the largest of the 3, holds his comrades in his arms in a desperate attempt to keep them all from being pulled into the black hole. Ash is struggling, as this group of Pokemon really don't have many moves to counter this. Nanu commands Muk to attack with Sludge Bomb to get Ash's Pokemon to lose his grip, but Ash has Torracat and Jangmo-O intercept with Ember and Dragon Breath. Ash thinks back to the triple battle and tries to think of a strategy. Then it hits him. He comes up with an idea, and he calls on Tiny. Torracat and Jangmo-O get behind him. Meanwhile, Ash puts a Z Crystal in his Z Ring, poses with the Passimian, then commands Continental Crush. Tiny summons a massive rock into the air and flings it toward the black hole. Ash then orders Torracat and Jangmo-O to hit the giant rock with Ember and Dragon Breath, leaving Nanu confused as to his goal. As the flame and dragon energy-coated rock bursts within the opposing black hole eclipse, a flurry of ignited rock shards rains down like a fiery Draco meteor on top of Persian, Crocodile, and Muk, shocking the Kahuna and even distracting Hao. Now is Ash's chance. Time for the final strike. He commands close combat from Tiny onto Persian, revenge from Torracat onto Muk, and Brick Break from Jangmo-O onto Crocodile. All 3 attacks land before Nanu's Pokemon can avoid the hits, and they all fall in defeat at the same time. Ash has won without losing a single Pokemon. Nanu is beyond impressed. And now, Hao is discouraged. He was excited over getting a knockout before Ash, but now Ash has defeated all 3 of Nanu's Pokemon at once, and while he was distracted, Absol leapt forward for a Sucker Punch, taking down Raichu, much to the dismay of Hao's other Pokemon. Hao is slightly upset by this, as it means he won't be getting a Z-Power Ring, but he recalls Raichu and thanks her for her earlier help in taking down Honchkrow. But in that moment, Hao becomes more confident. Now the battle is just Crabrawler and Komala versus Absol and Sableye, and he knows he can manage a double battle a bit easier. Sableye goes in for a Shadow Sneak against Crabrawler, and Hao orders him to counter with Crab Hammer. As he prepares to use the move, Nanu has Absol use Psycho Cut, but Hao has Komala jumping between the 2 Pokemon and uses Lock Pillow as a shield to block the attack. From here, Sableye strikes with his attack, but Crabrawler is strong enough to take the hit and hit a powerful Crab Hammer for the knockout on Sableye. Now it's just 2 against 1. Nanu actually does praise Hao on the last strategy, but says that it won't be enough. He orders Absol to use Night Slash. Hao has Crabrawler use Bubble Beam to slow Absol down, and tells Komala to get behind Crabrawler. Nanu doesn't want Absol to get too close to the fighting type, so he has Absol stop and switch to Psycho Cut. But once again, this is intercepted by Bubble Beam. With the other Pokemon stuck in a stalemate, Hao has Komala go in close and use Sing, stunning Nanu. He orders Absol to get away, but he winds up taking the hit. But he tries to fight off the tiredness. Nanu calls for Psycho Cut again, but Absol has become so tired that as he tries to use the move, he misses. As the creature struggles to keep his eyes open, Hao's Pokemon go in for their final strike. A Power-Up Punch and Brick Break combination finishes off Absol, giving Hao the win. Ash and all the Pokemon cheer for Hao's victory, and he hugs Crabrawler and Komala, thanking them for their win, despite how much of a struggle the battle was. Nanu recalls Absol and praises Hao for managing to get the win, but tells him that he still isn't the best in battling in an unfamiliar scenario. Meanwhile, as Ash approaches, Nanu compliments him for keeping a level head through the battle and remaining focused for his Pokemon. Ash thanks him, and Hao can't help but feel a little jealous. Nanu hands the boys their Darkinium Z crystals, shows them the pose for the move, Black Hole Eclipse, and gives them the trial completion stamps on the league passports. And you both remember the stipulations for this battle, right? Ash, you've earned this. A Z-Power Ring. Nanu hands the black-colored Z-ring to Ash, who puts it on immediately, thanking Nanu for it. Ash congratulates Hao for being able to get a Z-Power ring, and simply states that while it would have been nice to get one, he'll be fine to make do with his normal Z-ring. Can you take things seriously just once? A voice angrily yells. Everyone turns around to see Gladion standing behind them. Ash asks the boy what he's doing there, but he turns his attention to Hao. You had the chance to earn a Z-Power ring, and you failed, and you're telling me you're okay with that? Well, yeah, it's fine. My Z-ring is enough, and I still completed the grand trial. That kind of attitude is what holds you back. You should be forever working to become stronger, like all of your friends. Instead, you're fine with just skating by with the bare minimum. Hao is annoyed by this. He still won. Who is Gladion to tell him how to feel? It's not like he needs a Z-Power ring. And he tells Gladion to just mind his own business. Gladion still looks irritated, but changes the subject, asking where Celine and Lily are. Ash and Hao answer that they aren't exactly sure where Celine is, as she just said she planned on doing some training. Meanwhile, Lily is likely still shopping in the city. Suddenly, before anyone can say anything else, Rotundix comes flying in, screaming. Guys, Lily, Celine, Po Town, you have to hurry.